Okay then, so what happened on this week's Coronation Street? Quite a lot, it turns out, and a few surprises as well, including a reappearance of Paul. Who'd have thought that we'd be seeing him walking down the street again? It was quite nice though, because he posted his on his social media today that puts his number of appearances at 600 in total on Coronation Street. So good for him, I say. Nice round number. So he was back. He was haunting Billy on Wednesday and Friday's episode. I'm really curious to find out what other people thought about that, to be honest. I'm going to call this story Poltergeist.
Like poltergeist.
Like poltergeist.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, thanks. We've got the Briefs Down story next. It's all hotting up for Joel. Well, not Joel, he's pretty dead at the moment, but everyone else involved it's hotting up for. We have then got the Mason Metcalf mouse mystery, which is a pretty that's it. That doesn't get a good response from Gemma there, sorry. Stoma moan. It sounds like Home Alone a bit.
No, it doesn't.
I don't know, maybe it just sounds nice. And the Clayton visitation shun.
Yeah, okay.
Shun. Yeah, sorry, I told you, we're behind with this week's podcast. You don't need to worry about it. That's what the storylines are called. Deal with it.
I think you should just stop doing storyline titles.
No, what the hell? No way. Poltergeist first. So, Monday's episode starts and Billy's there in the cafe. Is he a grief meeting? I can't remember. He's organising his grief meeting, or he's in the flat, or he's in the cafe. I don't know. Basically, he's having a look at some leaflets saying this is how you should deal with grief. And because he is an expert at that at the moment, he thinks, no, I deal with it in my own way. Thank you very much. I don't agree with this at all. Todd comes over, wondering if someone wants to have lunch or breakfast or whatever before this space launch party. There were so many weird things that happened in this. Within the space of 2 episodes, we had a space launch party and a ghost visitation.
It's kind of silly.
What was this?
Now listen, everybody. Okay, lots of people hated this. I totally get why. I thought it was great, and I had a brilliant time watching it. The same way I also like watching compilations of like penguins falling over and stuff. Doesn't mean the content is quality or that I rate it very highly.
It entertained you, didn't it?
It just really entertained me.
It sparked your interest. It made you look up from your phone.
I think sometimes it's easier to not take it too seriously, but it's funny because it was such a serious story and it really was heart-wrenching, and now all of this aftermath just feels like a completely different story.
Some people have absolutely loved it. I've got mixed feelings on how it's been.
I want to know, is this the Corripedia? Are you guys going to put space as an official location for Coronation Street? Because Paul was the first Coronation Street character to go to space.
Does it not count because he is not in corporeal form?
I don't know, you have to ask
He's a little bit ashen looking.
And also, based off of the shenanigans, is what I'm going to call it this week with Paul, I asked our Twitter followers, do you think that ghosts are real?
On Coronation Street, in the Universal Coronation Street.
Are ghosts real or are they not?
I didn't actually see the final result of this, so what are people saying?
There's still 6 hours left, but at the moment, their real has got 39% and their not real has got 61%. Oh, and there's some really good logic behind some of these answers here. Scripted Scene says they're metaphors. Yeah.
She's a writer.
Muffin the Muffin 5 says that they're real because during the Martha Longhurst story, when she was haunting the Rovers, Betty heard her voice, but she'd never met her. So how does she know what she sounded like?
Nice. Yeah,
that's a really good logic. Yeah. Lovely Words by Joe said, when Billy kept drifting off to sleep, Paul was still stood there. So I say spirit. So it really was a ghost.
I can't look. Should we wait until we get there before we debate?
I'm just telling you what I think. I think it's good.
It's very unusual.
Thank you for people that voted and answered. I find it fascinating. I love it. I think it's nice how it's a bit ambiguous.
It's not proper kitchen sink, though, really, is it?
But it's all it's a fictional world, isn't it? Coronation Street.
And, but it's not a fantastical world.
No, but implausible things happen all the time, and it's fantastical. Just because they are mundane doesn't mean it's any more fantastical that like this place exists in a world where so many improbable things happen. So why not ghosts being real? Just because the other improbable things that happen are like people overhear things all the time they shouldn't do. You're talking about somebody and they're behind you. You get arrested for something and then you get let off because everyone didn't like the person you killed.
And there
anyway.
are serial killer after serial killer living on that street.
People die and nobody seems to notice or care. The pub is got a magic money tree in the back all of a sudden.
It's not the first time that we've seen spiritual things on Coronation Street. I mean, literally, a couple of weeks ago, we did a Patreon episode for our patrons over there, which was top 5 posthumous appearances of Coronation Street characters. And some of those definitely were shown on the screen as...
a spirit.
So some, like Vera, for example, was supposed to be a spirit visiting Jack. So that already puts it in like, well...
No.
Or was that... No, that was...
We had a discussion about this.
That his dying... mind.
They've always give themselves a get out of jail free clause on whether these ghosts are real or not, which is why I asked the question, because I think it's up for interpretation.
Often the person who is seeing the ghost on Coronation Street is going through some kind of heavy mental turmoil at the time,
or
whether it's Rana being seen by Carla or Jeff haunting Yasmin.
Yeah, are they visions, hallucinations?
There's not. It doesn't ever. It's not like you're just sitting down having a pint of the Rovers and the ghost shuffles up to you and says, "Mine's a pint."
No.
But yeah, Billy was troubled on Wednesday. Look, let's where we get to that. So Billy is. No, it's fine. It's fine. Billy was troubled, and Todd's really worried about him. Well, Summer is as well. They're saying he should be in a grief counselling session, not leading one. He's working himself too hard, and Billy's getting mega cross at him. Todd says, "Look, you just want to detach yourself from your own personal grief here, and you haven't even noticed that Summer's really struggling as well. You need to take a break." And Todd's Billy's like, "I can't have one." He starts going off and saying, "Look, my Jesus, God is my side. He is my rod. He is my staff, actually." And then he storms out. So I think that it's fair to say that, the vicar, the archdeacon, whatever he is at the moment, should 100% be turning to his faith at times like this. So I think there's a lot of people who are anti-Billy and saying, "Oh, he's going off on a rant. I haven't got time for him like that." But I think that was, the fact that he brought up his faith when he was trying to justify why he's perfectly entitled to be doing this, and he's got the support and the succour from God. I think that sounded kind of fine. Did you have any thoughts about that?
What's the question about whether I thought that he was
he going over the top too much? Should he? Is he just? Lots of people are rolling their eyes at Billy's rants at the moment.
I think a lot of people. We're a very secular society. Unless your family is religious, I don't think you will have any experience of people talking about their religion and using it to cope. So because of that reason, I think when somebody if you're not religious and somebody does something like this, it kind of feels really overwhelming. But it would be weird if he wasn't like this.
I suppose the thing is, he doesn't bring it up a lot. And you'd think as a vicar he might
religious he's ever been, I think.
Yeah, which, I mean, he is in such a desperate
state. Apart from that
state.
time he saw Jesus when he was high in the church.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you what, if that story had been played out now, I wouldn't put it past Coronation Street to actually have Jesus come and visit Billy and kind of just shake his head and say, "No, Billy, let me take that syringe from you."
What a great gig, though, to play. You're in Corrie, who were you? I was Jesus, yeah. Yeah.
Well, Summer has a bit of a visitation of her own later on Monday's episode, doesn't she? When this bloke turns up at the flat, saying that she's terrified. She's got no idea who this chap is, and then he's apparently with Billy. He says he's called Wayne. He's one of the addicts. He's from one of the addicts groups that he's been at, and he knows Paul from his dog and gun days back when he was on the Paul Robeson estate.
Yeah, that's right.
And he said, "Look, I've come to help." He's come to help take away the handrails and stuff that Ed fitted for Paul. Why Ed can't take them away, I don't really know, but never mind. And Summer is mega suspicious of this guy, and so I don't think Paul would be friends with him, to be honest.
Right, since Paul's died, we've been told so many things we didn't know about this guy. They had plenty of chances on the show to demonstrate his love of raving and being launched to space. But it's only after he's died, suddenly, oh yeah, he was friends with this guy, he used to love going down the pub, he used to do this and that. Okay. I don't even think there was a history of him going to the Dog and Gun, because that was where Gemma went, and they were estranged at the time because he went to prison for her.
Well, don't think about it too hard.
I'm not going to.
At least this stuff with Wayne turns out there is a bit of baloney from from him.
But do you know what I mean? It was indistinguishable from the baloney they've made up already.
Billy somewhat foolishly leaves naively, shall we say, leaves Wayne alone in the flat later because Wayne said, I'm quite hungry. And I don't know why Billy doesn't have anything edible in the house.
I don't know whether we're weird, might be able to get our house is literally full of food at all times.
It is a little bit. So Billy pops off to the shop where he bumps into Bernie and tells her a bit about this guy that's come over, and Bernie's like, Wayne, he's a massive scam artist, get yourself back there, he's a liar, he's a thief.
No, she doesn't say that. She says, I wouldn't trust him if I was you. She's got no idea he's left him in the flat.
Didn't she? I couldn't remember at this point. I thought that she said that, but no, anyway, they get back, Wayne's gone, Summer's there. Her uni bag has been taken as well because it's got her laptop in, and oh my gosh, it's got her essays, it's got her notes, all of her university stuff has been taken away, and I didn't back it up to the cloud.
I know, and Billy's got the cheek to say...
He's got the gall to have a go at her for not backing it up when, what was it, 2 months ago? He'd not backed up any of his... He didn't even know what the cloud was back then. He thought it was the thing that Jesus sits on, and there's nothing more than that. But he's like saying, I can't believe you didn't back up your work, Summer. Now, I'm going to say here that it was a bit odd that Billy hadn't backed all his photos to the cloud, because I think that's just the done thing now, isn't it? I think most of us do that. And maybe he is right to say, well, look, Summer, I lost all of my stuff. I would have thought that should have spurred you on to be backing your stuff up as well. Michael. But I am also going to say that Summer shouldn't need prompting for that, because as whatever gen she is she a Gen Z at the moment? I don't know. Or a Zoomer. She would. I'm sure she would just automatically back things up to the cloud anyway, because I didn't think people her age even knew how to save things onto your hard drive anymore. It's just, I thought that students all use Google Docs these days, which automatically does it for you.
Don't get me started.
I'm more of a Word man myself. Well, actually, I prefer Notepad, which Gemma has
issues
Notepad
with.
I'll have a bit of Notepad.
You sitting there criticising everybody for not backing their stuff up. You're the one who sits there with a document, writing notes and thousands of words, and I look at it and it's called Untitled because you haven't even saved it.
My notes for the podcast are not all backed up somewhere.
At least Word saves it automatically as you go, and it will recover it. Notepad doesn't do that.
If someone were to pinch this laptop that we're using now to record the podcast, I would be 100% screwed. Every like 6 or 12 months or so, I'll do a dump onto a hard drive, but we haven't got enough space. We do have the Google Drive, but it's telling me I'm already at 98% on that, so I don't know whether we need to. It is a bit expensive. We need to maybe bump it up a little bit.
Maybe if all you're backing up, what is she doing at university?
I don't know what she's studying at university. It's summer, isn't it? It could be anything. I am also very hypocritical with this. I'm realising mid-rant. But, Summer, you've got no one to blame but yourself.
So, do you reckon this is like one of these issues-based storylines? Like, make sure to check for lumps in case you end up having cancer. Make sure to back up your documents in case an addict comes and steals your laptop.
It is. It's a low-key issues story, isn't it? And they're trying to work it in every couple of months. Still, they'll put a mention of it in.
Do you think Coronation Street will be like, this year we worked together with a data recovery charity to make sure, and we've tracked statistics, and 600% of people, 600% increase in people buying hard drives from Amazon based on our.
You just imagine Harriet Bibby and Dan Brockerman chatting with Lorraine about this, saying this is a really serious issue that I feel passionately about.
I found out during the course of filming this storyline that 600 people in Manchester last year lost photos of their nan and their cat when they were a child because they didn't save it to the cloud. So what we're trying to do is partnership up with this charity to just raise awareness to make sure that people know that
it's all awards
at any moment you can you imagine them doing like best storyline Emmerdale. I don't even know what's going on in Emmerdale.
I saw that
domestic abuse, Coronation Street, data recovery, EastEnders, The Six.
That's when you know they've run out of ideas, isn't it?
They haven't quite run out of ideas.
Or just like on the front page of the soap magazines, you got files deleted permanently.
Paul's ghost warns Billy about not backing looking up his documents.
Anyway, it turns out that it's fine on Wednesday because she gets an extension, doesn't she? I'd still be pretty knocked off if I was her.
Oh, would you do it all again?
She hasn't had
Can't
a
be
laptop
bothered.
back, and probably she'll get it back, and it's like, oh, I didn't need to redo it again, really.
She's not going to get it back, is she? It got nicked, but it wasn't the only thing that got nicked.
But we know who Wayne is. This is the thing. Like, why can't Billy just say to Swain or Tinks, can you go and fetch this?
They don't care
chase
about
after
that.
this chap?
No, they don't care about that.
Craig would. He's a nice guy.
No, they don't bother. It wasn't the only thing that got stolen, though, was it? And you can't back this up.
Yes, Paul's ashes.
Oops.
Just a little bit. The bit that Billy had kept.
Half.
In a jewellery box. And no, I don't think it was half in the end, was it? I thought he got a little fraction. I don't know. But anyway, Paul's been thieved. I'm gonna say I'm fairly certain that he will get these back at some point. But as it stands at the moment, they are still could be anywhere in Weatherfield. I'd be Wayne's gonna be in for quite a surprise, isn't he? When he comes back and he sees this. If he was like, I know that Bernie was saying that he wasn't Betty mates with Paul or anything, but you thought that, you know, having known this guy, he might have it in him. Having opened the jewellery box to just go and leave it on the doorstep, like ring the doorbell and run off. Because what's he want to do with it? Is he just going to chuck it out the window and say, I can flog the jewellery box? Or maybe he'll just put it in a little sandwich bag and post it through the letterbox and Billy will find it one day. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Who knows?
You should write this shit.
Who knows? I should. Definitely get me on the team. So Wednesday comes along, and this is the space launch day. So we've been looking forward to this for a little while.
There was some real clunky dialogue this week.
I don't know how you write natural dialogue about seeing the space launch of your ashes.
This is too science fiction-y for Coronation Street, really. We had, you know, you've got gothic literature because you've got ghosts pitching up. Like, yeah, it's like the future and the past all in one.
Yeah, they're just a week late for Halloween, that's all.
But Jane Hazelgrove and Daniel Brocklebank, say what you like about whether you liked the story or not, but they sold it, didn't they? They really did. They worked really hard and said some frankly ridiculous lines with a really straight face, like, "Oh, it's going to be late for Paul's."
I don't want to
space launch.
poo-poo anyone who may be thinking about this as an option for their own ashes, or if maybe you've known somebody who's had this done. But it's a bit out there. To be frank, I was very, very sceptical about it beforehand, and actually when it happened, and maybe it was on
really
the second watch,
touching.
it was quite touching.
Yeah, it was actually really sweet.
It was just not the sort of thing I'm used to seeing on Corrie, but maybe that's good.
It's just the words space launch. I just can't think. It just doesn't. It has a comical ring to it just because it doesn't feel like that's what is really happening.
I like the thing on the in the pub on Wednesday when Ardy and Asher were pretending that they didn't see the irony between somebody called Paul having an Apollo having a space launch.
No, like, what's Apollo? What does that mean?
Who was it they were talking to? Was it Bernie, I think? Or was it? No, it was Sally. And then they're kind of giggling
like,
behind her back when she goes. That was quite fun. Anyway,
so like, we were just pretending.
Billy's looking miserable at the beginning of Wednesday's episode. He's also looking incredibly beardy. I think, you know, if they're looking for somebody to play Father Christmas at the Weatherfield Church Fair, Billy could easily take that role at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So Summer says, by the way, I've been granted an extension. Hurrah. Billy's still sad about the stolen ashes.
Well, because he's got his own plans for those. He wants to turn that into jewellery.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that, doesn't he? He wants to turn it into a ring.
Very out, you know, when you have ashes, what do you do? What are you supposed to do with them, really? I mean, in Coronation Street, you're going to get dumped somewhere as a hilarious joke.
Yeah, I don't know what people... Like, some people will keep hold of ashes and just have them on their mantelpiece, which is fine, and other people like to scatter them, and other people will just bury the ashes.
Yeah. But launched into space,
I say you do what you...
sounds great. I didn't know that was an option, and being turned into a diamond, that's also brilliant. I don't know, is there something else we can do? I would be interested if anyone's got any new pictures. Could you be the first person on Mars?
I don't know. Look, let people do whatever they want. Let you know. I'm not here to judge. Billy is at his grief drop-in centre later, and it turns out that nobody fancies coming along to share their innermost thoughts and grievances with a very sad-looking vicar. So Shona starts talking to him about this launch, and ends
the
up...
addicts group was more popular then.
Yeah, apparently so, yeah. Shona ends up putting her foot in it by saying the wrong thing about the space launch, and he storms off. Bernie's in the flat later, having a nice...
He should have pitched, he should have, like, touted for business at his addiction group. Be like, is anyone sad because someone died? Anyone sad?
He probably...
Are you addicted because someone died? Great! Brilliant! Come to my grief support group.
Yeah, hand out a few leaflets, couldn't he?
Yeah,
anyway, look.
promotion. He's got to think about these things. Has he got a Twitter account? No. Has he got a TikTok account? No. How are you ever going to get the word out about your groups?
He only thought, like, was it Friday last week that he was going to do it? It's quite quick to turn around to drum up business for it. I know that Weatherfield is the kind of place that makes you sad if you live in it because of all the tragedies that happen there. But give people a bit of time.
Do you have to pay for it, though?
No, I don't think so. And it was during the day as well, wasn't it? People were at work. Anyway, look.
They're sad
he goes
at work.
back to the flat, has a nice sit with Bernie, who's saying, look, you come along to the pub later. You could help set it up if you wanted. She can see that he is paddling away and drowning and trying to let him into what they're doing to say their goodbye to Paul and celebrate his life. And he ends up saying, look, I'm just going to have a bath, okay? So she... leaves and he heads to the cupboard and pours himself a whiskey.
This is what he should have gone. He should have got for Wayne. Instead of going to the shop to get him some food. He really was probably just after the whiskey.
Did anybody else just kind of, when Wayne got named this week, just go, I wish they'd bring back the other Wayne? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ginger Wayne, Roy's Wayne.
Bring back Wayne. Bring back Henry.
When we say bring back Wayne, we didn't talk about this one. Right, so Billy does come along to the pub later, and he's a little bit steaming, and he's just drinking away while everyone's getting prepared for it. Dev's paying for the food because he's still split up with Bernie, but they get back together this week, which is lovely. And he also says that there might be some work coming up for Chesney soon, so everything's turning out great here, apart from for Billy. So everyone starts watching this launch.
Well, Bernie
video.
makes up with Dev, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. Yeah,
I think they get back together again.
Oh yeah, he brings her an apology drink, or she brings him one or something. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but they've made up.
Billy's just there, propped up at the bar while the launch video is taking place.
So the launch video then. Did you think that we were going to be actually seeing this video on screen, the whole thing? Because they made a decent job of putting something together, I would say.
I think part of the problem, why it always sounded comical and out of place to me, this space launch, is because I just imagined like a proper like NASA rocket, like an old school rocket sort of thing with a little launch, not like that same size, but I don't know, maybe like 10 foot.
Yeah, a fun-sized rocket.
Right, with a little hatch in it, like it's a Futurama ship, and a bunch of like packets of ash, and you shove it in the side of it, and everyone sits around like in a stadium, and then they launch it into space, and you just watch it go up in the sky, and then it goes through orbit, and it just goes into actual space, and it takes the ashes, and they go into the solar system. And I just spent a lot of time thinking that just seems very odd. But
what we actually got, like you said, I did think was fairly touching. It was peculiar.
It reminded me of who's that with that Red Bull guy that jumped from the edge of space.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know what his name is.
Because that was like, where's space begin then? Because it looked like it just went to orbit. Is that space? Yes. I obviously don't know enough about
the atmosphere. You're in space. So it was filmed. They had a proper little balloon thing, didn't they? That was lifting it up. They had drones following it. So they didn't skimp on the expense for this.
Yeah, they obviously but
it obviously went up because they actually filmed it in the air.
I don't know whether this was actually. Is this how they actually do it, or did they just go? They're not going to know.
No. I think it looked to me like they had somebody.
It was like a little canister.
Who knew what they were talking about, getting involved and saying, "Here's how you do it." A canister with his publicity shots
photo,
on.
His headshot, and then it went up.
Goes
and it got
up through
to
the
orbit,
clouds, and then the ashes.
And then it released the ashes out.
Was that bit fake? I don't know. I don't know if I'm feeling really naive. The bit where they're in space and you can see the globe in the background. I was thinking, oh, maybe that's the green screen bit. But then I was thinking, if they went to the trouble of actually putting something up above the clouds, which it looks like they did, you might as well just go the extra distance.
whose was those
I'm sorry
ashes?
if people are shaking
Those
their heads and
ashes.
going, "You bloody idiot! Of course it wasn't real, Michael." I said, "Look, maybe a bit real."
Right, listen, you know when you get your driveway done and they'll say to you, do you want, if you let us put up a sign on your driveway that says this was done by, HampshireDriveways.com, we'll give you a discount, but you've got to keep it up for a year, right? Do you think that they contacted a company and said, has anybody died who wouldn't mind for a reduced price having Paul's photo on the side of their ashes so we can use it for Coronation Street?
Yeah.
Maybe it was like a
Maybe
massive,
maybe-
a mega fan or something.
Yeah, or maybe their photo was just on the other side of the canister.
Maybe it was. Or maybe it was just a bunch of pets.
Could have been. I don't know.
Would
I was
you-
kind
would
of
you be
hoping that
happy-
they.
Would you
I
be
was
happy
kinda
to have your ashes scattered in space with a character, like, so
the
I could get a
Coronation Street
discount?
character on. Yeah, maybe.
So I could get a discount for the price of it?
Yeah, starring role as Ash.
Who would be the worst character? No, I'm not even
I'm
going to
not
ask
going to
you.
say the worst character would be. No way. Anyway, it was pretty good. They also had, and what I was waiting for was for there to be some behind the scenes video uploaded to the Corrie YouTube channel or something, put on their Instagram or something. And unless I completely missed it, they didn't. And that
No.
seems like prime opportunity for saying, "Hello, yes, I'm the balloon operator, and we work for this company and trying to tout for business a little bit
Well, you'd
between
think
the
they'd get it
Coronation
for
Street
free.
viewers."
They get it for free if the... I don't mind launching fake ashes into space to promote my company if you give me a free promotion video.
Yeah, but we even
on
looked on the
ITV.
credits and it didn't seem to say anything,
No,
did it?
because obviously there was a drone operator involved because they filmed it going up from the side.
Are we just being completely dumb here?
I don't know.
Have they tricked us? Was it all just the volume wall? I
Yeah,
don't
maybe.
think it was.
They obviously all went though, because in the video, the people that you see standing in the field are like obviously the crew who
Yeah.
have taken this prop out somewhere to launch it. But in the fictional world of Weatherfield, those will be the people that work for the Ashes people.
They also had, just before they showed that, they had a little compilation slideshow of Paul pictures, didn't they? Which was quite nice. I mean, I suppose you do get those at funerals, don't you? I was watching it thinking, oh, this is a little bit cheesy, but I think I was just then anticipating the launch. I did laugh at the fact that they had a picture of Peter Ash at one of his old birthday parties when he was a kid, and then in front of him was a cake that said, "Happy birthday, Peter." Thank you to whoever pointed
I
that
just
out
liked
online,
it
because I didn't clock it the first time.
I just like to imagine that Paul just gate crashed another kid's party.
Yeah, exactly. His mate
like,
Peter's.
What are you going to do about it, Peter? It's my cake now.
And we also were kind of raising our eyebrows a bit that they had the picture of him with the drag queens, last year when they came into the Rovers, and it had Licorice Black as one of the drag queens
And I
behind
said,
him. And it's like, why was anybody taking a
Who
picture
took that
of
photo?
that?
It would have been Jenny.
That
Why
would
is
have been-
Jenny... Can you just imagine Jenny going, "Oh, I've got the perfect photo to put in the compilation."
Yeah, well, maybe she did. Maybe she, we knew at that point that he was on his way out.
Yeah,
maybe,
we did. That's why
maybe people have just been secretly taking photos, like candid shots of Paul for the
It's
last
weird
year, just
how-
so they could appear on his space video.
It's weird how they all look like screenshots from Coronation Street.
It does, doesn't it? What are the chances of that? Anyway, so I wasn't sure the first time I watched it. Second time I thought, actually, you know what, that's quite nice. But Billy...
Didn't like
he wasn't a fan. No, he strides up behind the bar, whilst as much as he can stride when he's 3 sheets to the wind, turns the telly off, and then he tells everybody what a terrible husband he is because he's lost the other bit of Paul, and he tried to kiss Todd the day of the funeral, wasn't it? In the evening. What kind of loving husband am I? Says Billy, and everyone's like,
Well,
bloody
he
hell,
also,
what
he drops
is
Todd
this?
in it here too.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Gemma's absolutely fuming, not you. You were just there being
I was just
entertained, weren't
vibing,
you?
yeah.
Gemma Winter is fuming. Todd says, "Look, you were out of your mind with grief at the time, Billy." But Gemma's like, no excuses. That is beyond the pale. Out you go, mister. So kicks him out of the pub. Dev later finds Bernie having a bit of a cry outside because the whole party's ruined. Funeral number 3 is ruined for Ball, and he comes out and gives her a hug, and she says, I thought this was actually a really touching scene because she said that this was the moment that she realised that he was gone. And I know we kind of joked before about the fact that he's had the actual funeral, he's had the rave, now he's got this. And Bernie, she was somewhat in denial and
That's
trying
what
to
I said,
hide her own grief by
She's got
saying
nothing.
let's have a party.
This is it now. She's come to the end of like procrastinating her grief.
Yeah, and this was what was the moment for her, and it put me back in mind. I don't know whether you remember this. You probably do. Was it about a year after my mum died, or was it a few weeks after? I really can't remember. We were around at your mum's house, and we had some of those little candle lanterns that we put up in the air at.
We're not supposed to do that though.
Okay, we didn't do that. No, we did. We lit some of these and then
We
let them
didn't know
float away.
at the time. It was years ago.
No, this was
Chinese
this
New
was
Year.
just after your nan had died as well, and your mum was saying, "Well, we'll do one for Michael's mum and one for Nan." And then as that floated away, I was like floods of tears about that, and I didn't expect to be. And it's not like I'd been in denial that my mum was dead before then,
Yeah.
but sometimes
And
just
then it
seeing
killed the
something
fox.
like that, yeah. Sometimes seeing something like that can bring it home. So I thought
I know
that was a really
it's
lovely
weird.
scene,
It doesn't
actually.
make sense sometimes what sets you off. I mean, that's why we have these funerals and ceremonies and things, because we need our brains
Need to
like
have a good cry.
we're in denial about it. Just doesn't make sense when someone you love dies. It doesn't make any sense. It just feels so cruel and improbable that somebody can disappear from your life. And so
As much preparation as,
even
Billy
if
had.
you know, yeah, I mean, we knew your mum was dying. We knew it was going to happen. She was in hospice for a while. It just kind of, and these characters had a long time. It wasn't an unexpected death.
Yeah, no, not at all. So anyway, Bernie later goes off to Shuttleworth to see Todd, and she's like, "Look, I'm not mad. Just tell me what happened." And Todd says, "We were both drunk and upset." Bernie's feeling mega guilty as well at this point, because she knows that it was at the funeral when she revealed to Billy that he hadn't actually spoken to Paul over the phone minutes before he died, which, when that happened at the time, I was a little bit peeved that was going to be brought up at the funeral. I would have thought that might have been better as a little secret, but I suppose it ties into the drama of this week in the end. So she blames herself. Todd says, "No, it's all my fault. I promise there was nothing sexy about it. It was just full of self-loathing from Billy's part." And they're also really worried about where Billy's got to. Summer's been ringing around saying that he's not at the church. He could be anywhere. She'd seen him walking out of Deb's with a bottle of whiskey earlier, so I guess that was Evelyn maybe that sold
Who
him
served
that.
him? You're not supposed to. I don't think you're allowed to do that.
Probably not the best idea.
No.
I mean, I'm surprised that nobody's like, "Have you tried Victoria Gardens?" Because 9 times out of 10, that's where people are going to end up if they've gone missing.
Have you tried the grieving bench?
Yeah, exactly. So, but Billy's, he's a canny chap, isn't he? And he's realised that if he wants to lose himself, and turning up at the obvious place that everybody always goes to isn't the best choice. So he's actually found himself on the back steps of the factory. He's got his headphones in. He's listening to Paul's final message to him. He's shivering and he's upset and he's getting rained on. He's looking at his photos. Todd's trying to call him and he's ignoring them. And then his phone runs out of battery.
Oh my God! You might as well just die.
Exactly. But who should turn up but Paul? That's right. Paul is back. He's a ghost. You see his legs first, don't you? What did he say? Like, "Shift your ass and get up, Vicar," or something? I can't remember. But yeah, he's there.
So-
he's doing a Vera.
We didn't know. I didn't know this was going to happen.
No, I
Did
don't.
you?
I think this had been kept a surprise from everybody.
So
Yeah.
what did you think?
I think, well, the one thing that made me wonder, and I think some people wonder, is that Peter Ash was on the credits for the week's episodes. But I think people could have put that down to, maybe a voice clip's going to play, like, Billy listening to that final message. I don't know whether that would have been enough to
or
have got him
like
credited.
imagining his voice in your head, which is very, very different.
But
from
none of
seeing.
the publicity shots showed Paul in them.
I don't think they even sent any for the press, did they?
Yeah, there were some
okay.
pictures of Billy looking a bit sad and cold outside the back of the factory, but nothing with Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's exactly how it should be. If you're going to do a surprise like this, don't tell anybody about it. Let people gasp when it happens. And, when I
saw it, I was like, wow.
I was a bit, and then the episode ended, and I was quite surprised because it was only, it was seconds on the end of Wednesday, wasn't it? I was like, oh, is that it then? Because when Vera came back for Jack, they had a little skit of it, and it was, 30 seconds to a minute, and that was done absolutely beautifully. And I was left a little bit cold after the end of Wednesdays and saying, oh, is that just him is that all we're going to see of him? And then I started thinking, well, maybe we'll see more of him on Friday, and this isn't the last of it, and we'll get a few scenes, and maybe he'll do a little, Clarence from It's a Wonderful Life taking Billy round and saying, here's all the people, how whose lives will be affected if you let yourself die drunkenly in a puddle here.
Where will Wayne steal from
Who
if
is
you're
going
not
to
here?
hand out the soup? That's always the thing, isn't it, if Billy's not here?
What's the bishop going to do?
I wasn't feeling brilliant about it on Wednesday, but it was a pleasant surprise as well. I think maybe...
Yeah, look, I'm a simple woman, okay? I see a character that I like, they come back after they're dead, I'm always going to love it. I know it doesn't make any sense, and I know lots of people don't like it, and they find it, like, this method of storytelling, it's becoming more frequent in Coronation Street, which means it's becoming less impactful. Definitely understand that perspective. But like I said, I see a character who's not been in the show. I wasn't expecting to see them come back. I like the character. That I would love for Imran to come back. I would love for Pat Phelan or Uncle Stephen to come back. I loved it when Teddy and Leo were haunting Stephen. I think it's great. That's as far as my thoughts go.
I think maybe had it been a longer period maybe between Paul's death and his reappearance, it would have been a bit more impactful, because it's like, oh my gosh, it's Paul, he's been dead for 2 years or something, and now he's back to teach Billy the error of his ways. But it almost felt a little bit like, he's barely been cold. Maybe I don't know, maybe I'm just picking holes here, but...
Well, no, you're not the only one who has had this reaction. A lot of people
vehemently against the idea of any kind of hauntings or comebacks, which I totally respect that opinion as well, because, the view that Corrie isn't about that.
It's a method of storytelling that breaks your immersion, because Coronation Street is supposed to be a completely realistic depiction of just what you like. You should be feeling like I'm an invisible I'm invisibly watching this. Like, I'm just walking through.
I'm a fly on the wall.
I can see everything they're doing, and I'm following all their stories. But once you start adding in, like, funny effects and ghosts and visions and thoughts and stuff, it starts to become a bit different. Another way that this storyline itself kind of broke the conventions of storytelling for realism was when we had the whole episode that was narrated from Paul's thoughts.
Yeah.
It's not the first time they've done something a bit unusual with just this story alone.
Well, in the last 18 months, 2 years, we've seen more and more of this unconventional storytelling, and I was definitely more resistant to it at the beginning than I am now. Sometimes I'll look at something and go, that's not working.
Sometimes it just doesn't seem to work.
I've been, the past couple of weeks, I've been thirsty for flashbacks and going, oh, come on, somebody have a flashback now. I want to know more about what happened on the night of Joel's death. And I certainly wouldn't have been saying that 3 years ago. So I think they've worn me down somewhat. And it feels like it's just a case of, we're going to have to go along with it. And you can't just throw in a flashback and expect it's going to be brilliant. It still has to be done well and effectively. And I think, we said earlier that we did a Patreon episode a couple of weeks ago about top posthumous appearances. Having watched the end of that Wednesday episode and now the Friday's episode, I'm going to be honest and say I don't think that this would be up there in my top 5. What do you think?
Of after death appearances.
Yeah,
now you're giving away a bit of our Patreon here.
Of who else appears in it.
We can't give it away for free. You got to pay for that. What do I don't think I'm ready to. I'm not ready to give it my ranking. It's just happened. It only just happened. I don't really know what I think about it.
It didn't tug on my heartstrings in the same way as Vera did. No way, because that was so beautiful. They had the music playing, they had the kiss. It was almost like proper closure in the fact that Jack was always pushing Vera away, and here he's there giving her a kiss, and they're just hugging and dancing, and the camera goes up through the ceiling. And it was
entirely
brilliant.
Unexpected, and it was a couple who, I think rose-tinted glasses give them a bit more credit for how strong they were.
For sure.
Because they were very tumultuous for most of the time, and it seemed like they hated each other for a lot of it. But I think that kind of made it stronger, because it turns out they did love each other and they were soulmates.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's it.
Then you get some of the other ones, which are like Jeff coming back, Teddy and Leo doing the hauntings, Rana.
But they were, you know, these were all plausible explanations because that, you know, LSD, mental health crisis, all this kind of stuff.
But I think that they worked on kind of the shock value
Yeah.
and the fact that they didn't linger too long. And I think that maybe the Wednesday's episode this week with Paul appearing to Billy probably wasn't enough. But then there was almost a bit too much of it on Friday. And I don't know, was it like 3-4 scenes with Paul on Friday? And personally, I felt that a lot of the scenes were fairly similar. It was just Paul saying to Billy, come on, get up. No, it's not your fault. Billy saying, oh yeah, it's all my fault. I'm such a terrible husband. Paul saying, no, you're not. Get up. Please don't die. Don't close your eyes. Don't fall asleep. She'll never wake up again. And almost everything I felt that happened across those 3-4 scenes could probably have been done in one and maybe just, tightened up a little bit.
Yeah, it felt a bit indulgent, and also it was a bit confusing because what was the purpose of this? We didn't really get closure for Billy because I would have really liked... We got it to the end of the
episode, I suppose.
What I really would have liked was, but not from Paul appearing.
No, Paul just, on his last scene, you don't even realise it's going to be his last scene of the episode, do you? He just doesn't have any other scenes.
I wanted Paul to tell Billy, I did hear your voice when I died. That would have been a good reason to have him come back, and I think it was a missed opportunity because a lot of us theorise that we did actually get to hear that part, just before he passed away. That would be it's just really confusing because was he really appearing as a ghost?
This is the crux of it,
Coronation
isn't it?
Street has always been quite ambiguous with it, and this is still confusing. But my problem with it really is that it's inconsistent with Billy's belief system that his soul hasn't gone to heaven. So does Billy think that Paul is in kind of limbo or something?
Well, he's talking to Bernie later and saying, well, it was obviously just a dream, wasn't it? And then Bernie, because, we're going all over the place for this episode, but it was a funny old episode. Bernie says that she had a dream about Paul outside the back of the factory as well, and that's how she knows where to go and see Billy.
Okay,
and that just blows my
means
mind if I'm trying to make sense of this.
Yeah, because that then makes it that in the real world of Coronation Street, she really had a psychic vision, a prophetic dream that turned out to be true. Okay, you can't deny that happened.
You can't have a shared dream with somebody.
She dreamt that he was in the location that he was, so she psychically knew. So psychic powers or prophetic dreams have been proven to be true because there's no such thing as a coincidence on Coronation Street. We know that. But are ghosts real? So Billy doesn't think that he was a ghost. But we saw him.
But by the end of it, Billy had convinced Billy that it was what did she call it? A visitation or an apparition? Bernie convinced Billy that it was an apparition or something. And then he kind of ends up going along with that. But you're right, it doesn't necessarily gel with his belief system.
Well, I mean, I'm going to just be clear here that there's a grand tradition of ghost stories in Christian cultures. And, I certainly don't think it's completely the opposite of Christian belief. It's you can have them together, but why is he not? It's more a case of why is Billy not questioning why Paul is not in heaven.
But I think in the end he says that he does mention that, and he talks about he's there with Jesus. I think that's like one of his last lines. Yeah, he says that he's with God now. He's safe in the arms of Jesus.
How does he know he's in the arms of Jesus and not still hanging around the back of the factory?
No, I don't know.
Just waiting for someone else. I mean, that would have been the second death in behind that factory in the last, 12
year and a half. 18 months. So if it was a ghost, and I
don't like to, this is a bit silly.
It isn't, but Corrie invites these discussions.
They did ask us.
If it was just a dream, was it Billy trying to convince himself? Was it him subconsciously trying to reason with himself and saying, no, I think that this is what Paul would want me to get up?
Yeah.
That feels like that gels best with me at the moment. If it was actually Paul's ghost coming to visit him, and also he happened to pop by Bernie's dream while he was down there and saying, oh, you might come and rescue him from the back of the factory because I can't get him to wake up. It's just like at home, I can't get him out of the bed in the morning. I just don't know what to think of it. And I think the fact that there was all of that going on took me away from it, and it stopped me from enjoying it as much as I might have enjoyed it, because I was too busy trying to make reasonable sense of it.
Yeah,
when probably Corrie were hoping that we'd just go with it.
They invited too many questions by making it too long.
Even if Bernie, even if they hadn't had the stuff with Bernie also saying, "Oh yeah, I dreamt about Apollo too," then I could have said, "Okay, I'm just putting this down to Billy having a dream." Because even when Vera came to see Jack, that was, in his dying mind, wasn't it?
Yeah, we've spoken about in our Patreon episode. We go through about every single one we can think of where somebody appeared after they died, whether it's a voice clip or a vision or like a photo or a video or something that somebody left behind. Anytime an actor, after the death of their character, has to come back, or they have to use something from the character's voice, archive or whatever, we talked about it. And there isn't really a moment where you can say that was definitely a ghost.
Even like, Rick Neelan coming to visit Kelly.
Yeah.
That was just her thinking, what would my dad say?
Well, this was like an angel and a devil on the shoulder kind of. It felt like it was,
And Paul just seemed to have a little bit too much agency in this one.
And also, it felt really tragic because the implication here is that Paul's been watching Billy this whole time, and this is the first time, like, it's almost as though being drunk kind of, and this is definitely something that I think ghost stories and stuff would have you think. Anytime your defences of, like, your normal brain is resistant to the paranormal activity, but if you break it down with some kind of substance or inviting a spirit or some kind of, you're in a location where the veil is thinner, like, he's invited this, but because he was so drunk, Paul appeared. But the implication is that Paul's been there the whole time going, "Billy, what are you doing? No one wants to go to your stupid grief group. Billy, Wayne's wrong and I don't want him to come and steal my ashes." It
was good to see him full of life again, because Billy points out, "Oh, you can move." Like, he was doing the floss, which...
Yeah, this was...
I did do a bit of an eye roll at the floss, I have to say.
I'm not sure that was a popular, literal move. I don't know.
Maybe not from Paul's time, but...
No, I don't think the viewers really... I think it was funny and cheeky, but I don't think it went down that well, but who knows?
Who knows? So, yeah, you had that. You had the fact that you could just talk normally, which is the first time that Billy's been able to see him do that for, 6-8 months? I can't remember when his voice really started to go.
I think the thing
that was all lovely.
Right, can I just say, but that got lost for me. I kind of forgot that was a really important part. If only we had had a more brief encounter, we might have, and Billy had remarked on it or something. I just got completely bogged down with all the other questions and confusion. It should have been a beautiful moment when Paul was like, "Hey, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Why don't you get up?"
Yeah, I think
but
so.
But instead of that, I just spent the whole... They have a little argument where but Paul's trying to get him to get up. Billy's like, "No, I want to die. I'm drunk. I was a terrible human being."
They also had them like having a bit of a hug on the crate that they were sitting on, didn't they, or on the pallet or whatever it was. So he's got some kind of corporeal form, or is this just part of his?
I think we need to stop talking about it now. We can talk about this for probably an hour.
And Paul was crying at one point. It's bizarre.
Well, Paul's like, "Look, why don't you tell me what you were going to say to me when you wanted to say goodbye?" And so Billy says, "I wanted to say I loved you, I've always loved you, and we didn't get enough time." And that's when Paul starts crying. And Billy's trying to go back to sleep, and Paul is begging him not to die.
Yeah, and that's the last that we see of Paul.
See, the fact that the last time we saw Paul, he was crying, is really sad to me. I wish it had ended like... I know it's...
Well, you never know. Maybe he will come back again.
I also kind of wish... yeah, maybe. I also kind of wish that... Bernie had found him in a different way, like maybe his phone hadn't actually run out of battery and she'd walked around and heard it ringing. Maybe...
I don't know. It was there were some strange choices, including Dev having a little fart on the sofa in the next scene, because that was an awkward transition, wasn't it? We had to rewind that. It was like, did Dev just guff?
I think it was the ghost of his dinner.
You reckon?
There were 2 ghosts in that episode.
But anyway, that and Todd trying to ring up Bernie wake her up, and then this is when she has her like, "Oh, I think I know where he is." So she heads to the back of the factory, finds a barely conscious Billy there, calls an ambulance for them, and then rather than taking him to hospital, they just say, "Let's just warm him up, Don't need to get him out of his clothes or whatever. They're
No,
supposedly sopping wet.
They do say he's got to change his
Oh, did
clothes.
they? Oh, okay, fine. But
Asher comes.
I'm surprised that he's not, more intoxicated and maybe a little bit of alcohol poisoned.
They did say, like, Asher came, she looked after him, made sure everyone warmed him up, and then the paramedic came and went, no, he's fine now, we'll just go. But really, I think they would have taken him and just pumped him full of liquids, if only because he was going to have the mother of all hangovers when he woke up.
Most of the time, everyone's always in Weatherfield General,
well, this is what I think.
They
maybe
love an opportunity to take a character to hospital.
Maybe the scriptwriters were like, do you know what? I'm not going to send him to a hospital. And do you know what?
Full of twists.
I think the fans will thank me for that because they're fed up with medical scenes. And then we're going, why isn't he in hospital?
You just can't do right for doing wrong, Coronation.
No, don't listen to us.
So anyway, that's all happened. He's lying there, and then we get the next morning. So the one thing I really did enjoy about Friday's episode was that a good half of the episode was set at night, and we always say that makes an episode of Corrie feel a bit special, doesn't it? If it's a nighttime set episode, and I was thinking maybe it's going to go all the way through, but we did have dawn breaking on Friday midway through, and that's when she's telling everybody how she knew where Billy was. Strange. Billy wakes up later, Bernie's there, and he's like saying, oh, I'm really sorry, I'm useless. I did get a little bit fed up of that self-loathing, to be honest. She says that 99% of the time you're a selfless little smasher, so don't you forget that, Bill. Just have some hot chocolate.
This was nice, right? But I just want to say, I thought we had this already at the end of the rave.
Yeah.
The end of the rave, Bernie and Billy sat next to each other and they had a really nice moment where they both sort of united in grief. This was a bit more involved than that. I really liked seeing it. I love the way that Bernie's sort of become a surrogate mum for...
Yeah, well, she says, I've got 4 kids now, doesn't she? Gemma, Paul, Kit, and now you, Billy. That was lovely.
It was very sweet. I mean, the age difference makes it weird.
Yeah, I know, I did think that, but never mind that.
But... I really like it. It does feel a bit like maybe Billy will be part of their family now.
Well, I mean, this is the challenge, isn't it, now, Coronation Street? Are you going to keep Billy part of the Winter Brown clan? Or, I expect there's a real temptation to have him never interact with any of them ever again. But Bernie said it now, so don't let us down.
It was very sweet, but this does feel like the story that won't die.
Yeah. It's almost like lots of people had ideas at Coronation Street about how best to say goodbye to Paul, and rather than choosing, they let's do all of them. Yeah, we'll have a ghost, we'll have a rave, we'll have the Christian funeral, anything else? Anyone got any ideas?
I think this was really, really nice. So basically they just talk to each other and they talk about the dream. We've already said about this, but I think the final episode was where a lot of people...
The final episode or the final scene?
Was where they lost a few more people. This was like a runaway train and people were falling off left, right and centre, weren't they?
Well, from what Twitter seems to suggest.
From Twitter feedback.
Not everybody on Twitter is the most reasonable.
You're not going to... Very, very rarely are people going to really just praise something that they liked. If you loved it, you're going to go and shout, I love this, I love that. If you just thought it was fine, you're not going to really tweet about it. You're going to say you hated it or you loved it. And a lot of people hated this. This final scene where they hear the rain begin. And the whole point of the space launch, Bernie's been going on about this, is that Paul's ashes will mingle with the rain and he'll be spread across the Earth, the planet. So they run outside to hold their faces to the sky and hold their arms outstretched to absorb Paul's essence in liquid form.
Yeah.
And they're shouting, Bernie's shouting, he's in another dimension. And Paul, and Billy says,
for this week, he's in another dimension.
He's with God now. He's safe in the arms of Jesus. And that is something that you will almost never hear in a show that's made in this country, unless the person in it is supposed to be unhinged. And I think that well, no judgment on me about whether you believe that or not. I just think that people in this country are if they're not indifferent to this kind of religious proclamation, they're hostile towards it, because it just isn't Number one, we're not an emotive people. This country, we're not emotive. We don't like outwardly displays of emotion at all, let alone grief.
We are somewhat reserved.
We lost our minds when Diana died, and ever since then we've decided no more sadness, no more public displays of sadness.
Yeah.
Right? So a man...
Got that out of our system in 97.
Yeah. A man holding his arms out and shouting about Jesus is so strange for us, even in real life, but on television, it's almost never going to happen. It just doesn't, unless it's a religious television program. We don't really. I think other countries have a bit more of this mingling between religion and they're a little bit cooler about it, and they don't mind it so much. I just think a lot of people didn't like it because it was religious.
I didn't mind it too much. You can't criticise the vicar for doing that. I'm just think the fact that maybe if we'd seen more of that from Billy over his time, because he talks about his faith so rarely, doesn't he?
I'm just going to say, I think this made sense for their characters, but I can see why it was incredibly jarring.
Yeah, I totally get how people would have found that a bit uncomfortable at the end. And
it's jarring to the point of being slightly comical, but I also think that they both did a really great and convincing job of selling it to me that these two characters were in a world of their own where they were finally releasing some great pent-up sadness and accepting and moving on after the death of someone they loved very dearly.
Yeah. I think that's...
And if I'm wrong about what I'm saying about religious stuff, then let me know. But I genuinely think you will never see anybody talk about God or Jesus in television shows unless is part of the plot or that it's a vicar or something like that.
Yeah, well, it was a vicar.
No, but but he's been in it for years and never even mentioned. You wouldn't even know what religion he was half the time.
I think that maybe now is the time to put this story to bed. It's not, so often in Corrie, well, not so often, but I like to think it is. I will complain that a story hasn't quite stuck the landing, like the Phelan story, for example, which we loved. But then when he was, his final episode, it just didn't sit right with me. And I've been a huge supporter of this MND storyline all the way through. And it wasn't a massive flub in any sense of the word. It just got a little bit weird towards the end.
It was weird, and I don't think we needed this one, but I'm glad we got to see Peter Ash again.
Yep.
The thing is about Paul is that it feels like the final movie in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, where when I was watching it in the cinema, it felt like it ended 6 times, and every time a really sweet scene ended, I was like, okay, let's get on, and okay, no, we're gonna have to have another scene where Okay, Sam's here now. And that was nice. Anyway, no, there's another scene. We're not quite finished yet.
Yeah, it makes sense why they've been having all these grieving scenes if they knew that it had to lead up to this. But seriously, let's have a breather. Give poor Dan and Jane a little bit of a time out.
So here's another thing to consider too when you're thinking about characters leaving and not making a big deal about their exits, because we've had Beth leave recently. You got Peter Ash that left as Paul. I don't know who else is going to leave. There's always steady coming and going of characters. Joel's gone, and they're making a big deal about that exit because obviously he's been murdered, and so presumably someone else who's killed him is going to go. I don't know what they're going to do about that. But the point I'm trying to make is characters like Beth or other sort of minor characters. You can't have an extended play of their exits like this. If everybody had 2 weeks of people talking about they're going, oh, they've left, oh, I miss them, they wouldn't have time for anything else, and everyone would be sick of it.
I think the fact that this was such a big story and it resonated with so many people says, well, maybe it earned it.
No, it definitely earned it. I'm just saying not everyone gets this because it just would be, it would get tedious.
Yeah. So, from grief to briefs. What's been going on with the whodunit storyline, which is rapidly reaching its conclusion, I feel.
Yeah, we had some more flashbacks this
Little
week.
bit of flashback in this week, just a tad.
And again...
putting the pieces together. Before we even start this, Gemma, whodunit?
Gus or Joel's not dead.
So are you wiping out Kit as a suspect now in your head? I still think it's going to be him.
How can you get away with it?
It's like... as I said, I'm sure plenty of times before, it's so painfully obvious it's Kit, but maybe that's what Coronation Street wants us to think. And there's Verity McLeod sitting there up on high, laughing at me for saying, you have walked right into this chat, Michael, because it's actually going to turn out to be whoever. DD. I don't know.
Look,
Come on.
I can't cope. Right, so Monday. Daisy is helping Kit because remember he's moving out from the rooms in the pub and he's going to go to a flat.
He's going off to Red Bank, isn't he?
Red Bank. We don't know where in Red Bank or if we're going to see his set.
Well, it would make sense to reuse the one that Stephen had.
The thing about it being Kit, Michael, is that if it's Kit, then he can't be in the show anymore unless only we find out and the rest of the characters don't know. This is what
I wouldn't put it past Coronation Street to reveal it to us a long time before it's revealed to someone else.
Yeah, but everyone's going to lose their mind.
Do we have a long-term wrongful incarceration story?
No.
Again, another one is... I'm thinking the way it's looking at the moment, I reckon, is that Kit is going to be gunning for Swain, because the way he was acting towards her, or was it Mondays or Wednesdays, I can't remember, he was trying to make it look like she's guilty here. And I wonder, does the Carla Swain relationship get put on hold for a little bit because she's banged up for wrongful murder? I'm a little bit fed up with that type of story.
About. The thing is that these characters, that I don't know what they're going to do. I love the fact I don't know. Don't get me wrong, I'm enjoying this, and but I'm just really confused by some of the things that happened. But that's fine because we don't know still what really is the truth.
No.
But if it is Kit and he doesn't get found out, I wouldn't really mind that. I think Coronation Street needs a villain.
Yeah.
I'd rather it was more of an antagonist, like a Mike Baldwin kind of character, than a killer.
I'm still not completely on board with loving Kit as a character. That's the thing.
I like him because he is, like I said, he's dangerous and he's sneaky and he's out for himself, and that makes him interesting.
I think if it turned out that it was him that did it, that could be enough for me to go, right, I'm on board with him as a villain now. But it's just the fact they're being so ambiguous about, is he a goodie, is he a baddie?
But that's good.
And also I'm still not buying that it was really necessary to have him related to Paul.
No.
I really think that this whole story so far could have worked just as well, if not better, if they hadn't had that little complication.
But I don't know. Right, so he's moving out, and as she's carrying, for some reason he needs to recruit this tiny woman. Like he's such a giant man, he could probably just like stretch over and put it down in the flat himself.
Yeah, one arm holding the Rover's
just
door,
like,
the other one.
There we go.
The other one at Red Bank.
So he's recruited the tiny lady to help him carry his stuff, and one of the things she's got is a box with a bottle of whiskey, and she realises he's pinched this from the Rovers, and he's like, oh yeah, sorry about that, I will pay back for it. And we find out that's quite significant later on. We do. Then we see Lisa Swain comes over and she says, can I talk about the case with you? And Daisy runs off and she says to him, what happened about that red car? Any leads? And he's like, nope, forget it.
Yeah.
And she looks really suspicious and heads off.
The last thing that we'd seen Kit doing before this was crossing deleting the column or the row that had his car being on Noble Street the night of Joel's death. So we were already, if we weren't already, pretty suspicious of him going into today's episode, because he is trying to remove all trace and evidence of the fact that he was at the, not murder scene necessarily, but outside Joel's flat the night he died.
Max and David go to the hospital to see Lauren and the baby, and this is when David tells her it's a bit of a fake out because previously Max and Lauren had sort of asked if she could move in with the Platt family once Frankie's out of hospital, and so David went to go see them to basically say yes, but we don't know where we're going to be. So as long as we can sort it out, you can come and stay with us.
Nice little family moment.
And Lauren's very chuffed about this.
Makes sense to me.
I think this is such a bad idea because surely if you're David, you think, I don't know how long this kid's going to be going out with Lauren. It could get very awkward if I invite his girlfriend to live with us with her baby and she's homeless and then they break up.
Yeah, especially if you don't know where you're moving to. It could be somewhere with very thin walls. Yeah. And who wants to be staying somewhere with a pair of teenagers doing it? Yeah.
I was thinking a baby.
Oh, either or. It's quite a lot to ask. But I suppose in Coronation Street, you're used to having your houses crammed full of people, aren't you?
Everyone sleeps in bunk beds with soundproofing.
Yeah.
Right, so Ryan comes in the pub and he's mad about Kit tricking him into spilling everything about what Daisy likes, and he kind of tells Daisy, "Watch your back, because he's gonna lie to you too." Kit then finds Daisy in the back later, and she's like, "Look, I know you've manipulated me. I don't really like this. It's a short step from that to controlling." And Kit says, "Look, I'm not really surprised that your ex has been bad-mouthing me." And she's like, "What? Why don't you tell me what happened with this whiskey bottle? Why'd you steal that? We knew it was missing a month ago." Then we get the flashback. And this is Kit sneaking in the back of the Rovers. He looks at his phone calls and he deletes all of his recent phone calls. He takes the whiskey from the bar and he takes a big drink.
I was pleasantly surprised that we got Kit flashbacking and being added to the list of suspects so early. Obviously, in the recent podcast, I've been saying, "Oh yeah, it was definitely him. We're probably not even going to have him added to the suspect list until it gets revealed that it's actually him. It's so 100% clear that he's the guy that is behind it." So yeah, the fact that he was added there on Monday, before even Max and Lauren got added to the list, and they only appeared on the photograph yesterday, didn't they? Despite not having any evidence for no particular reason, they just wanted to finish it off. Well, I added a few more myself actually, but that's another matter. So yeah, that was a nice little curveball for me, and there was just a bit of doubt in my mind watching these episodes. Maybe it's not Kit after all, but I was very intrigued about these missing phone calls. But I was glad that they pulled out the whole Kit's been away doing something dodgy on Monday night, and we have a few more flashbacks from Kit that episode as well, don't we? But that's all we get for the time being.
Yeah, because when we come back after the break, Kit is trying to leave, and Daisy's like, "No, you've got to explain yourself." So he makes up a story that he took the drink the night of Paul's funeral, and he didn't want to admit that because it seems like he couldn't cope, and he felt like a fraud because he's barely knows Paul. So why is he grieving him?
Oh yeah, and this is when they have a bit of a bonding sesh over dead brothers, don't they? Daisy's like, "Well, if anybody should know what it's like losing a brother, then it's me." Not really, Daisy. There's probably 50% of the people in the street have lost a brother at some point. But it's interesting that they decided to use that line there, because there's been no reference to Tom on the show for a long time, and I think that possibly could have puzzled a few viewers. But it
might have done.
Maybe I'm still standing in, and this is my long-term argument on Coronation Street. This is my theory that I've been building for the last 3 years or so, that Daisy is somewhat responsible for her little brother's death in that paddling pool, and maybe this little mention of him on Wednesday's episode, or Monday, whenever it was, is the beginnings of we're going to be delving into Daisy's backstory at some point.
Could be. Right, then we get a little scene with Carla and Swain, don't we?
Because this is nice.
Carla comes in and she's been suspended, isn't she? She's got nothing to do.
No, I thought that she'd just been taking time off.
She took time.
So she
can
have
holiday.
some family bonding time
so
with
she's
Betsy.
Trying to get festival tickets for her and Betsy to go. And Carla's like, "Oh God, who's going? That's terrible."
She liked the idea of Swain living at large at the festival scene.
She's like,
I think that's probably not even the right word to use, because I am also not a festival goer, believe it or not.
Why would you go with your
Who's
daughter?
least likely to go to a festival, Swain or me?
Don't know. Carla's like, "Why? I don't know why you go with your daughter. You can't take drugs then, can you?" And she won't be able to take drugs either. You just ruin each other's vibes. Silly. Anyway, it was she says
she's never off duty as Swain. She probably would be at the festival, just
nicking people.
Yeah, nicking people left, right, and
it's probably
centre
better for you if you're a cop not to go to the festival, because you'll see things you can't ignore.
I can imagine her being there, and then some of the other festival guys going, "Oh my gosh, it's a narc." Is that the right words? I don't even know. I don't move in these circles.
We're not druggies.
Not druggies, not festival goers. We do a Coronation Street podcast. I think that says it all.
We spend our Friday nights or Saturday morning.
Afternoon.
Yeah, what did you think we were going to do? Right.
Good for Swain. That she wants to bond with her daughter.
This was very sweet of Swain, and so Carla's trying to help her out. She says, "Look, come to the factory to do it because the internet connection's dodgy here." She's in the queue and she can't get these tickets. Then Dee Dee comes in and sees Lauren and tries to get away, and Lauren's like, "No, please, I understand why I can't stay with you, but I don't want you to get awkward. I don't want things to be awkward. I'm going to stay with Max, so I'm all fine." And Dee Dee's like, "Okay, that's great."
Yeah, Dee Dee just can't get away from her fast enough this week, can we? We'll find out on Friday, about what's driving this.
Yeah. Swain also goes up to Dee Dee and tries to apologise to her about accusing Ronnie about driving this red car down Noble Street. And she said, look, it didn't turn out to be anything in the end. And Dee Dee's not interested, and she's being really...
Yeah, suspiciously evasive.
I can see... I don't know what she thinks she's playing at, because she's kind of making herself look really suspicious for how much she's protesting too much about her family being under suspicion.
I don't think anybody's noticing.
No,
I think it's
haven't.
just for the viewers, isn't it? She turns to camera and looks pained.
She does that thing where you kind of finger your collar going, oh boy, I can't believe I got myself in this mess. Right, so Swain is just chilling out. Carla's office is like this. It's like the Swain common room, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You got Betsy come in. You got Lisa's there trying to get these tickets, and Carla's just doing her paperwork.
It's because she's a cool boss. She's got open plan factory. Anybody's welcome there.
Yeah, so she's still trying to get these tickets, but when Betsy walks in, Swain's like, "Oh, quick, close it down," and
Surprise tickets.
And then they send Betsy to get lunch, and this is feeding the Swallow fans here, because we get a bit more information about the two ladies and their lunch orders, and wow, they couldn't be more wrong.
More
different
was it?
from each other.
Carla likes
Carla wants
sambuchi and sushi, and
sambuchi.
Yeah,
kombucha.
Is that what is
kombucha? It's a sort of that weird.
I don't know festivals.
Fermented.
I don't know booze.
I don't
know
kombucha.
And Swain likes
She was a dirty
kebab and some iron brew, which is brilliant. I love this. This is really sweet.
It was really sweet, and it was obviously a bit of an odd couple. Will they ever be able to make it in this world where one of them likes sushi and the other one likes
iron
kebabs?
brew.
I don't know. We'll have to see. I bet their delivery bills will be sky high, won't they? Right. So they send her away, don't they? But then Swain gets a message to go to the station. Oh my goodness, how am I going to get these tickets? Oh, I better go. But don't worry, Carla's on the case. This was very sweet. So Kit then at the station tells Swain, right, you're in trouble actually, because we found on your phone that you had written a message but not sent it, and this message was for Joel, and it was threatening, telling him to stay away from your daughter, or quote, or you would end him, or you'd be the end of him.
Yeah, that's it.
And then she's like, where were you? He says, where were you the night Joel died? Did you know that they can see what you didn't write?
No, I don't think I did realise that.
I'm in trouble.
And although it's one of these things that sometimes they'll put it on Corrie and go, no, they just made that up for the story. But now it made me think, maybe they can.
Maybe she writes. Maybe she
actually
composes all of her messages in Notepad before she sends them. Just send it with a clear head. She's a very sensible lady.
Well, she's just like, we had Gemma this week, didn't we? Tapping away at her computer, typing a message to Billy, which she didn't actually send in the end. So it seems like that's the go-to, venting method of Corrie women at the moment.
If you go one step further, I think you could become a witch. Because I think what you can do is write stuff out and put it in a... I think there's a spell you can do where you... Michael's laughing at me.
Oh, God.
There's a spell.
So we've gone from ghosts to witchcraft in this week's episodes, have we?
Michael,
how many fingers has Swain got? Is it 6 on each hand? Because that's a clue I hear.
She's got a third nipple. No, I don't know.
Carla's going to find that quite a surprise.
Oh my God, we're going to get in so much trouble. Okay, all women are witches, but not all women realise they're witches, Michael. We've all got magic powers, thank you very much. You men just don't realise that you're going to get in trouble soon, you lot. Watch your backs. Okay. But I'm pretty sure there's a spell, and to be clear, I've not done this, where you can write someone's name down, and if they're annoying you, and you put it in a bottle, and then you freeze the bottle, and it freezes them from being horrible to you.
Right.
So maybe Swain was writing a message on her phone to do some magic with it. I haven't really worked the details out. But anyway, either way, she's in trouble because she's got to explain herself. Well, she says, look, I was just angry because and I was worried that Betsy was going to get in trouble and I didn't send it.
Have you ever done that, like to me or to anybody? Like, no. You just send it?
No, I don't send them. Look, here's a tip for you guys. In work stuff, never ever fill in the email to field until you finish writing your email.
Oh, just in case.
I've done it. Well, sometimes you can write an email and you haven't actually finished doing it, and if you put the person in the to folder and you accidentally click the wrong button, you can send it by accident. Always put the person you're writing it to at the last minute when you're ready to send it.
Yeah, but
that
you
way
can do
you
the
don't
old
have any
undo
accidents.
send now, can't you? On most
Only
of
on
them.
some things you can.
Anyway,
Right, so that's
back
my
to
tip.
Swain. Back to
right,
Swain.
so she's trying to explain herself, and he asks,
perfectly normal thing to do. Perfectly reasonable, Swain.
don't bother. I just don't bother writing anything. Even like, okay, one person I used to work with got mad at me once because they were bitching about a company in an email chain, and then the email chain got sent to the company, and they got found out about it, and then they got mad at me. Never, ever, 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 ever put anything in writing that you wouldn't want the person you're talking about to read.
I'm gonna say
Never.
that probably a lot of us have had tales of email chains being included in emails, and if somebody were to read the whole thing, they'd find some not so complimentary things being said about them.
We know somebody who was writing a bitchy text message about somebody, and because the person was on their mind, they sent it to the person.
Do we? I don't remember. You have to tell me who we're talking about later. I don't remember that
You
one.
just don't put anything in writing that you wouldn't want the person it's about to read, and that will never do you wrong. It will never do you wrong.
I accidentally sent my friend a message once. I don't know. I'm not going to name this person. I'm not sure they're not going to find out anyway. But it was about they were just introducing us to his new girlfriend, and I meant to text you to say what I thought of her, and actually I sent it to him instead.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Luckily, it was mostly quite nice.
What a
what I was
dope.
saying.
No, you didn't say that.
Just be careful before you press that send button.
If
guys.
Swain was here, we would have advised her not to do this, but we weren't around to help her out.
No.
And I didn't know that you could just get in trouble for stuff you didn't actually even send.
Mm-hmm.
What's this, the thought police?
I know, it's pretty typical for Summer, isn't it? She writes an essay and you can't get it back when your laptop gets stolen, but you literally write a text message, don't even send it, and people can still find out about it. It doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make any sense. So she says, I was at the hospital, and she has to confess about this altercation she got into where she was hit by the car when she was trying to stop somebody from escaping with a stolen purse. Mm-hmm. And so she says, I left the hospital around 11, and Joel's Kit says,
out, yeah.
Wow, interesting you should say that, because he was still alive then. And he's really making her sweat, and he is loving it. Betsy nearly walks in, just to add to the drama here, on Carla trying to get these festival tickets. Back to Carla, to Swain and Kit.
Sometimes scenes happen in Coronation Street, and I type down what happened, and I think, is there any point mentioning it? Yeah, I'll get it in anyway. Let's get this podcast longer.
Right, so Kit tells Swain that Bostello's might gonna suspend her, and she's not rattled at all, and she mentions the red car, which then gives Kit a flashback of himself driving down Noble Street and passing Joel, who's standing there with blood, holding his hand up to his bloody cheek.
Add that into your timeline of events on the night of the 27th of September.
So, obviously this interview has finished, because Kit ends up in the pub later talking to Daisy, and he reintroduces himself, because he's like, we got off on the wrong foot, I'm Kit, let's start again. And she does manage to get a bit more goss about the investigation from him, which is that he thinks he knows who it is that's done it, and it is obviously Lisa that he set his sights on.
Yes. Even though I'm saying it was him, I'm still saying it's him.
In the bistro,
So he's just reflecting, isn't it?
Carla and Swain are having a drink, and Swain's complaining about Kit and saying he's loving all this, he thinks it's me that did it. But oh my goodness, in all of this, after being accused of murder, I can't believe I forgot to get my kids' festival tickets. And Carla says, I got them actually. And this would be the moment I would make very awkward, because I would say, oh, cool. You didn't get the expensive one? Like, do I owe you money, or is it a present? Do I make this weird? Like, you didn't get the VIP because I was going to go for like the furthest field away and do the camping one. You hope you haven't got a glamping ticket, did you? Oh,
Carla always goes glamping.
Oh, it was a gift, but you got me the cheapest one. thanks.
Well, it was in the end.
Well, they have. She's like, oh my God, that's so nice, thank you. Gives her a hug, and then my bruises. And then she says, "You're such a good mate." Friend zone.
No, this just builds on it slowly. This is
I
nice.
do like this. This is very sweet. I wish that they could do this with more relationships on Coronation Street.
Yeah, the fact that they're not jumped into bed already by this point is good for me.
I really am enjoying this. This is a masterclass in how to create a believable romance.
Everyone else is already, months ahead and has got them walking down the aisle at this point. But I'm perfectly happy for it to go.
Any other couple, they would be talking about getting married and like having pregnancy tests
by this point. Yeah.
So Roy comes over to number 8 to be sweet and adorable and awkward and ask her about whether she needs anything for Frankie, and she gives Lauren. Roy gives Lauren a blanket which has been embroidered with the name Frankie on it, and I can't remember who else helped him with this, but she's very, very touched.
I think it was the ghost of Hayley. I think she came and did a little visitation and says, "Stand aside, Roy. I'm going to get my singer out." And there we go, love.
She's like, don't have a flashback or a vision of me, Roy. It's really embarrassing. I don't want people to make a fuss. I'm just going to come in, make my little blanket and go away again. Is that all right with you?
Exactly.
Yeah, we can do a jigsaw if you want, but just remember.
I've lost my wig since I were last in it 10 years ago, so.
So I'm not got my face on, so we won't be on telly, all right? So then we get Carla's alone in the flat with, well, she's not alone, she's with Ryan and some wine, which is the best company you can
Ryan
have.
and wine.
Yes, and he's still wound up about the fact that Kit has managed to get Daisy wrapped around his little finger. And I can't remember if there's any other conversation about Swain at this point, but they're both just having a chill out, aren't they?
Yeah.
Then we get to see Kit walking down the street with Daisy, and he's really flirting with her, and he manages also to get another dig about Ryan in, and she really is like hanging on his every word. I can't believe this man has like stolen whiskey from her and still managed to charm her into just being distracted.
Crazy.
But if she paid attention, she might see his eyes glaze over as he has another flashback, which puts a very concerning piece of the puzzle into place, which is Kit coming over to Joel and pushing him down onto the car bonnet. And Joel says, "If you do anything to me, I'm going to tell everybody about how you planted evidence on Nathan." And Kit's like really rattled, and Joel is grinning. So
Joel's loving this. He's like, "Oh, I've got you." Backed into a corner here. You can't do anything to me, otherwise I'm going to blow you out of the water.
So the thing about this flashback is that, unlike almost every other flashback, this actually provides a motive and a opportunity. So we already knew that Dee Dee had a motive, and now we saw her flashback with her with the crowbar. That was opportunity. But a lot of the other sort of flashbacks and things have felt like they were ruling people out more than they were ruling them in.
Yeah.
But this really does feel quite damning for Kit.
Yeah, well, up to this point, even though I've been suspicious of Kit, there wasn't an obvious reason about why he would want to kill Joel. And it is a little hokey, and, the fact that Joel says he knows, and he's taken a very good guess here, isn't he? He doesn't know. If I was Kit at this point, I'd be like, don't know what you're talking about still. But Joel, obviously, by the end of the scene is like, yeah, I have got you here, mate, and there's nothing you can do. And again, this really did not change my opinion about what was going to happen, or none of this week really did, because I've been saying all along that Dee Dee attacked him, she made the mark on his cheek, and then something happens whereby Kit ends Joel and finishes him off, and this is still going in exactly that direction up to this point, isn't it? And on Fridays as well, where we see some scenes with Dee Dee and Ed, and a bit of a confession there.
Are we not going Wednesday?
Oh, sorry, Wednesday, I mean. Oh, yeah, I forgot Wednesday happened as well.
Yeah, Wednesday was a day.
That was a day.
So just to piece it together then, we got the flashback of Dee Dee. So we had Ronnie and Ed. They came to Joel's flat. Joel wasn't there. They walked around and then they came out. But they had some kind of sinister intention.
Yeah. No, they were just going to drag him to the police station.
Oh, yeah, they were just going to drag him physically to the police station.
With a crowbar.
Not sinister at all, yeah. Then we get Dee Dee, who had gone to see Joel well, she hadn't necessarily gone to see Joel, but she'd gone with this crowbar, and it looked like she was maybe going to vandalise his car or something. We see her raise the crowbar above her head, and Joel kind of react. The next time we see Joel, he's got a wound on his cheek. So the implication there is that Dee Dee has actually whacked him, but hasn't killed him. And then we see him with the wound. So at that point, he records his voice note.
Possibly.
After he's got the wound on his cheek, he definitely records the voice note.
Oh yeah, it's after then, but whether it's straight away then or whether it's later, I don't know.
Whether it's before or after Kit confronts him, we don't know.
And throughout all of this, he was still planning to fake his suicide, wasn't he?
Then Kit confronts him, and Joel taunts him with the knowledge that he has got dirt on Kit.
Yeah, when he planted evidence for Nathan.
And those are all the flashbacks that we've got so far.
Yeah, the Swain
apart from Carla seeing someone outside the factory that we still don't know who.
And Swain chasing somebody and seeing a car. Again, that doesn't seem particularly linked at all at the moment. Like, you're right, that just almost ruled her out, didn't it?
Yeah. Right, so on Wednesday, this is when Dee Dee, Lauren's like going, oh, please help me choose some baby grows and stuff. And Dee Dee's like, no, why would I want to do that? Just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I care about babies. And she acts really awkward and dismissive. Then Roy catches Dee Dee later and says, why are you I thought you wanted to help Lauren. And she says, no, I'm just really busy. I don't have time to help out with stuff like that. Then Dee Dee's getting her ear talked off by Sally, going on about how much she loved LA Law.
Oh yeah, and also this was the scene where DNS Hardware gets a shout out, doesn't it? Where Sally says, "Oh, I wanted to be a lawyer. Well, didn't really. I just like watching LA Law, and I ended up with a hardware shop." So, an unnecessary but appreciated name drop for the hardware shop.
It's a throwback.
Good callback. This is all just the Wednesday is Dee Dee being led up to her confession on Friday's episode, isn't it? Everything's just needling her on Wednesday, and Sally is the best good at needling people. Roy
asks Dee Dee again, like, "What? Do you have a problem with Lauren?" And she's like, "No, I don't." And Roy leaves. So Friday, this is when Ed comes to visit Dee Dee.
This carries on. It's the same night, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just, what is wrong with you? You're not acting like yourself. And she says, no, I'm fine, leave me alone. Tries to get rid of him, and he won't go, and she just breaks and says, I killed Joel!
Shocker. No, you didn't.
Clearly didn't, did she?
Clearly didn't.
She's convinced she did, but why she's convinced she did, I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. She says, right, Dad, I heard you and Ronnie arguing about having gone to confront Joel. So I pick up this, she calls it an iron bar, which definitely feels like the sort of thing a solicitor would describe a crowbar as to try to make her client sound less guilty. She's like, I took the bar and I went...
metal instrument.
I went looking for him myself and I saw him getting in his car ready to go on the run.
This didn't hold up with either, because when we saw her flashback, he was in the car, wasn't he? She goes up to the car and he's there. She said that I saw him getting into the car.
Well... ready to go on the run.
Don't believe a word
and then she says, he went for me, I hit him, and he went down. So this is interesting. She says, I hit him hard, Dad. And Ed's like, no way, you couldn't have killed him. Also, you didn't wrap him up in plastic and throw him in the river.
That's the main thing, isn't it? He's saying, you're not the one that threw him in the river. Clearly he got away from this.
So what happened after that? So she says, right, what I did was I used a withheld number. I called Kit and I reported that he was there. Then I came back, I washed the blood off my hands, and I haven't spoken to anybody about it, but I'm going to go and hand myself in tomorrow. And Ed's like, no, you didn't kill him. And she says, well, maybe I didn't, but I should have stayed with him until Kit got there. And now this is given, if it wasn't me that killed him, somebody else did it. And it was only because of my actions that they had the opportunity to do that. And Ed says, look, how come Kit hasn't done anything about this phone call or said anything about it? That must mean something. And she says, look, this is why I've been acting weird around Lauren and Frankie and not wanting to talk about it, because I couldn't face them knowing I killed the father. So Ed then's like, right, next day goes to see Kit in Roy's and says, so...
Any leads at the moment? Any suspicious phone calls or anything about like that, Kit?
Just gonna throw a curveball at you. It was Dee Dee. No, don't think so. Me either. No, it couldn't have been her. Right. So Kit's like, well,
He's like, nope,
no leads whatsoever. So
this is clearly the phone calls that he was deleting from his phone.
Let me get to
previous episode.
Ed goes back to Dee Dee and says, Kit thinks that it was Ronnie. It's not you. You're in the clear. Don't even think about confessing. So, yes, as you've just said, the flashback where Kit comes in the house and steals the whiskey, he deletes all of his contacts. So, it's clear that he's deleting... Well, it feels like we're being led to think that he's deleting evidence off of his phone that he had a call from Dee Dee about tipping him off that Joel was there. So the implications
but he doesn't know
then,
it's Dee Dee still, does he?
I don't know how he could have not noticed that it's Dee Dee's voice.
Why didn't she just put a fake voice on?
Hello,
it's me, Elena's grandma. I'd like to report there's a man outside Nova Street.
Oh no, it's not me. I'm not Alina's grandma. God damn it! Why did I say that? It's me. I am a person you never met before or know who they are.
Anybody could do that. That's fine.
I'm the Scottish lady, in fact.
I think that he'd be a bit more panicked if he'd known that Dee Dee... Because the reason that he's not saying anything about this phone call is because, as far as he knows, nobody knows about the phone call. He's banking on the fact that this was a random passerby who phoned him up and isn't going to be asking him any questions about it.
We don't know what she did. We don't know what she called in. Did she phone up and go, "Hi, I've attacked Joel Deering and left him for dead. Go and find him," or did she call in and go, "I'm a concerned citizen and I think there's a problem. This man's on the floor and I can't stay with him, but I think he's going to die"?
Does it matter what she said?
No, it doesn't. Well, it's all to do with the intention, isn't it?
Yeah. So
and why did Joel go? And what? No, and also, who does Joel think this was?
Who does Joel think?
Sorry, Kit. Who does Kit think this was?
I don't think he thinks it was anybody.
Yeah, but Michael, you say what difference does it make? The difference is he knew he had... If the person said, "Hi, I've attacked Joel and left him for dead, come and get him," that means that's evidence of somebody who could be implicated in the crime that he's ignoring. If it's somebody going, "Hi, I'm a random citizen and I just found this guy on the floor, but I've got to go, come and help him," that's completely different. And he's got more plausible deniability to ignore that. That makes him seem less guilty. Because really, at the end of the day, he could still not have done it.
Yeah,
I know it doesn't seem like it, but... The fact of the matter is, he gets a phone call. We don't know what the contents of the phone call was, but it's definitely that to tell him that Joel is in need of assistance. He goes there, and Joel's fine. He's just got a big wound on his head, but he's okay enough to taunt Kit and tell him, like, "Oh, you're going to get in trouble if you try and cross me." And then Kit gets mad at him because he's like, "I'm a good guy, don't threaten me." So the implication then, Corrie wants us to think that Kit then decides to finish Joel off, wrap him up in plastic, drive his car to the viaduct, leave a suicide note there, take the body, throw it in a river, and then leave everything until he gets... Because don't forget...
The suicide note had been written by Joel, though, hadn't it?
The other thing about Kit getting this phone call is that he knows, he's not stupid, he knows that somebody saw that Joel was wounded and phoned it in and nothing got done about it from their perspective. And they know that they called him. So how is he going to ever explain this? He should be worried about who left that message.
That's true. It couldn't be a random passerby. It's got to be somebody that knew his number.
Yes.
Right, yeah, I hadn't
put
also,
the two together with that before. How is he going to expect, "Oh no, I didn't get a phone call"? If they can find out a message that Swain never even sent, surely they can recover his deleted phone calls.
Deleting your phone call, that is not going to be enough.
He gets a phone call from a withheld number. It still shows that he got a phone call.
Any police officer worth their salt will know that they can very easily recover those.
So right, the fact that Dee Dee thinks she killed him is kind of ludicrous to me, because maybe she whacked him on the head and she thought that it was very bad, but she knows for a fact that she didn't wrap him in plastic and drop him in a river. But she also doesn't seem to think it's a problem that the only other person who knew about Joel being there was Kit, and therefore, according to her logic, surely Kit's the one that wrapped him in plastic and dumped him in a river, and she's not bothered about this at all.
Yeah, that part of it doesn't make
any sense.
To me. I think that the whole "I killed Joel" was almost like a soap mag cover confession. Yeah. I don't even know whether that was on the front of the soap mags, but it seems like it should have been if it wasn't. But I think what she's actually saying there is, had I not attacked him, he probably would have gone home.
I'm not sure.
He wouldn't have been killed.
Well, like she's like, I set off
she set off the chain reaction that ended up with him being dead. Because if you remember back to the episode after that he died, and she's going around investigating, and she doesn't know that he's dead at that point, does she? Does she still think that he's on the run afterwards? Because she's going and finding his car left around all over the place. She certainly, although she comes into the flat on that Monday episode and she has a bit of a wobbly moment when she goes to the sink, she doesn't feel like she's acting in a way that I have murdered somebody here. So at some point between then and now, she's got this into her head that she's up to her neck in it.
Yeah, I mean, she's right to be concerned because she definitely should be in trouble for hitting him.
Yeah, I think
at the very least, I don't know what they're going to do about this, because I think she's just going to get away with attacking him. Whereas in real life, if she was if she admitted that she hit somebody with a crowbar, wouldn't you be like struck off? Being a solicitor,
quite possibly.
What happened to Todd that he got struck off?
I don't know.
Surely something similar.
I can't remember.
Or are you allowed to do it? Do you everyone gets one crowbar attack? Because being a solicitor is a really stressful job.
I just wonder then whether, now that Ed's spoken to Kit and he's not mentioning these other leads, although why should he? It is supposed to be a confidential police investigation.
None of your business is what you should have said.
Dee Dee will hopefully realise, hang on a minute, Kit should be doing something about this, and maybe that's what's going to be the clue that seemed fairly obvious to us. Though you said earlier that maybe Kit finished Joel off and then drove him off to the viaduct.
I don't think that's what happened.
No, it can't be that, because it was Joel's car. I think.
What do you mean it was Joel's car?
I think that. I think that.
Oh, I see.
If Kit had driven Joel in Joel's car, somehow Joel's car had to get to the viaduct, didn't it? So I wonder whether Joel drove to the viaduct, Kit chasing after him or something, and then they had their confrontation in the viaduct. But I still wonder whether the phone call, the message to Dee Dee, was that at the viaduct or was it in Noble Street? It doesn't particularly matter.
The logistics of this murder don't really make sense unless
I think that they will,
unless two people did it. I think two people did it now.
Do you? Why that?
Because how did Kit get from the viaduct home if he drove Joel in his car?
Well, he didn't. That's what I said. If Joel drove off, Kit went off after him in his car. They had a bit of a confrontation there. Joel's car gets left under the viaduct. Kit drives his red car back home.
Okay.
I think that's probably what's going to end up happening. And I really, really hope that there's going to be a bit of a curveball somewhere that means that it can't be.
How is it possible that two people had a car chase through Manchester?
Or maybe it was a very gentlemanly car chase, and they were just going slowly.
Mirror, signal, manoeuvre, sensible, keep under.
They happened to choose the route, so there was no CCTV.
Here's another tip for you: only break one law at a time. So if you're going to be doing a murder, don't speed.
Well, I don't know. I'm still clinging on to the fact that Max and Lauren are. There's still something dodgy with them. They've not had a flashback. We find out in the Mason story what could be the cause of the noise outside number 8 that they saw there.
So
did they sleep together? I don't know. They're saying they are, but I still think that they might have gone out somewhere.
So on the night of the murder, there were a few suspicious things that happened. Kit not being in when it was very late. We've discovered now what happened there. But the one thing that we still don't know that hasn't actually been spelled out to us was the sound that Max and Lauren heard, because that was another scene on the night of Joel's murder.
It's
clearly Mason sneaking into the back, and we also still don't know who Carla saw outside the factory. Mm-hmm. Who was that? Was that Mason? She doesn't know who he is. So I don't see why she would have reacted like that.
It could have been Max and Lauren. But then why would she not be mentioning it to them? Or are they just doing that when they're not in the scene together?
I don't know. It's very interesting. I still think it's a chance that it wasn't Kit.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. I don't know what the point of having Max and Lauren being added to it at this late stage is if they didn't have anything, if they didn't do anything. But
how about if it was Lauren? Lauren did it, and she's going to go to prison, and Max is... Who's going to be left with the baby? Maybe Dee Dee.
Maybe. I don't...
Who would get left with Frankie if Lauren turned out to have done it? That's a good
foster
question.
home, wouldn't it?
Well, in Coronation Street, that's boring.
Wendy Papadopoulos
comes back.
I don't think that... See, I don't think that any characters have been acting in a way that would suggest they murdered Joel. The only one who's been acting somewhat suspicious has been Dee Dee, and she's basically cleared herself by this confession on Friday, which means she just we
saw him alive after she left the scene.
Yeah, so nobody's been acting suspicious at all, which means it's maybe Kit, because he's supposedly got the best poker face.
I just hope that after they reveal who the killer is, it will be consistent, and when you look back, there's not going to be any moment where you've gone, well, then why did they act like that in that situation?
Well, hopefully they'll do a little thing on YouTube or whatever where they put all the clips together, and maybe we can see a timeline of events in the right order that they happen. That'd be pretty cool, and
I really hope
fairly easy to do.
What I hope they've done is create a logical sequence that you could have watched if it had been part of an episode and just broken it up and put it over a few weeks.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
What they didn't do so well earlier this year was when it was revealed that Joel was the one who had taken Lauren, they did a "Here's the clues you missed" video on YouTube. Do you remember? And there was barely anything. Unlike the Aiden's...
There were loads more actual clues that they didn't add into that.
Yeah. With Aiden's one, "Here's the clues that you missed." And I don't even think Corrie put that together. It was a fan account that did it. There were lots of things that he was feeling pretty bad before he took his own life.
If you're going to expect us to invest a lot of time and interest in this, you also got to give it back.
Yeah, but I'm kind of confident they will. I've got a feeling in my bones that this is planned well. But I want there to be a twist at the end, because I've said Kit right from day one, and if it is, and it's everything that I said, this is probably what's going to happen, turns out that it has happened, I'll just be a little bit sad that they've not pulled the rug out from me at all in a believable way.
I think there's still surprises and twists.
Do you reckon there's still stuff to come?
And I don't know where this is going, even if... The thing is, any of these characters, if they do it, it's going to be interesting, because with what they're doing with Carla and Swain, I would find it very weird if they set Swain up to take the fall for this. I don't think she did it.
No. But I think that she's going to be the one that Kit is going to try to pin it on.
Maybe she will go to prison for a short amount of time and get released.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Me.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm sure we'll
I do enjoy this. I know a lot of people don't think it's too long.
I've noticed people saying it's going on for too long, but I really don't think it is. It's in my head, it's barely started. It's been 5 weeks. That's not really much.
I'm going to say, but this story with Joel has been going on,
Joel
in general.
Joel is a villain.
I'm going to say that there is almost no storyline on Coronation Street that people would not say was being dragged out if they didn't like it. Yeah, that's just what people say. It's just another way of saying I don't like this.
Yeah. So,
and I feel the same way about other storylines. I'm not going to tell anyone that you're wrong to have an opinion about a storyline or whatever you think.
The other thing
we'll just have different opinions.
The other clue, just that we need to briefly mention, is the red scratches on the car.
Yeah,
that still hasn't been explained. I mean, it seems like it's clearly Kit's car that did it to this guy's car.
Do you think? But then, how did he get it? It's possible that it was just Ronnie. Ronnie got his car fixed afterwards. It'd be a bit of a weird coincidence if Ronnie had scratches fixed on his red car. I think that is one of those Corrie coincidences. But I think that Joel, that Kit deleted himself because he was there, not because he's the one that made the scratches.
Yeah, but I think that it ties into the theory of maybe there was a bit of a chase if Kit had to disappear off pretty quickly and rubbed into this guy's car on the way.
Yep. That would
because that still hasn't happened when we see the flashback where he confronts Joel. So clearly there's a hasty exit at some point, and I don't think it can be that he's killed Joel yet and he's just trying to escape. I don't know, but it's cool stuff. I hope to see. I hope it's going to keep on going. I don't need a pause from this at the moment. Just lead us to its conclusion now, Coronation Street, please. Right. So tangentially related to this storyline is what's been going on with Mason. And we got a bit of Sally and Tim, just general household kitchen sink action this week, didn't we? Which I definitely appreciated. There's been far too little of Sally on our screens this year. And having her cleaning up the muesli from the kitchen floor whilst making double entendres about Tim missing the bowl was right up my street. And Tim says, because she's found out a load of muesli's on the floor, and Tim says, well, it can't be me. I've not been downstairs yet. Could it be a mouse? So they get it into their head that there's a mouse in the house at number 4. And obviously we later find out that it's Mason who's been staying there. Yasmin gets involved in the story, which I would have thought that, remembering what happened a couple of years ago when she was living at number 6 with Kathy and Elaine, and there was a mouse on the loose there, she's terrified of them. But I don't know, she
didn't seem to be cared.
maybe you know, by now she's overcome her fear of tiny rodents. And
maybe she did immersion therapy.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, just in case another one comes back. She says, "Look, I'll take some unopened items for a charity donation if you like." The mayor's coming around to speed dial next week to what?
Sally's emptying all of her cupboards, going, this is all contaminated by mice, I don't want it. And Yasmin's like, well, this is a tin, and it's not open. Can I have this?
Sorry, yeah. Sally's ears prick right up at the sound of the fact that the mayor is going to come along to this collection for the charity food, and she's like, oh yes, you can have as much as you want.
But make sure they know it was me.
I can't believe that she's still brown-nosing the mayor when she was the mayor herself.
Well,
surely it's just... I know, it is very Sally.
I love the way that Sally Devener, she does this thing where you can literally, figuratively see Sally's ears prick up. She squares her shoulders and kind of, does this kind of, she thrusts her chin up and her chest out, ooh, is there a photographer around?
But
I was the mayor.
Even with Sally having been the mayor, she's still... starry-eyed over the
she still
celebrity
lusts
opportunity.
After power, doesn't she? And accolades. She wants accolades for everything.
Well, it's not like she's got a mantelpiece that she needs to fill, but I think that she just likes people in power to say, well done, Sally, just so that she can kind of feel good about herself. It's the same at the factory, isn't it? If Carla gives her an ounce of responsibility, she thinks it's the world.
You're sitting here like the pair of us haven't put our trophies in front of the television from
we are sitting here having a look at our trophies from the Coronation Street quiz the other day.
If there's a person on earth who doesn't like accolades from people in power, I want to know who that is.
I'm sure that there's some people that don't care.
Well, anarchists, maybe.
Anyway, so Sally tells Carla later at work that they should maybe think about donating their reject knickers to charity. Just, ones that are okay.
Ones that have got minor defects you couldn't sell, but they're still perfectly usable.
Yeah, exactly. Ones where they accidentally sew a third cup into the bra and there aren't any other witches around to wear them. And Carla's like, yeah, fine, whatever, I don't care. Say hello to the mayor for me. I love Sally. Carla knows what she knows exactly. I love how Carla is brilliant at putting Sally down when she gets into these moods. She's just like, a tiny remark is enough to get the wind out of Sally's sails. It's so funny. Yasmin comes round to number 4 again later and says, oh, well, I've heard that mice live in groups. There might be more than one here. And Sally's not particularly bothered by that at the moment because she's all in on this whole charity affair, making a splash in the press in front of the mayor. Tim's comes in. Next clue, he's found some crumbs by the shed. Maybe the mice might be living out there. So he puts on his old protective gear, didn't it? It was a little silly. I do like silly Sally storylines, but having Tim dressing up with his goggles and shower cap or whatever it was possibly a little bit much. So he sneaks out to the shed and they open up the door and find a mysterious rucksack. So and then we see Mason peering through the cracks in the fence, don't we? So earlier on in that episode, we'd seen, Yasmin had seen Mason going into the cafe and pinching a bit of food from the table or some sugar or something. I can't remember what it was. So this all kind of ties nicely into the idea that he's still sleeping rough, but he's found somewhere there, and like we said earlier, quite possibly this is the noise that Max and Lauren heard on the night of Joel's murder. Or again, is that just what Coronation Street wants us to think?
Ooh.
Are they bluffing us?
Do you know what? At this point, I don't know what I think about anything. Coronation Street's bamboozled me.
So, Wednesday's episode, Sally and Tim are rooting through Mason's bag. I don't know why they didn't...
Still the same day, isn't it?
No, that was a different day. They said, this is too much drama for one day. Let's wait until tomorrow to see what's inside this bag, clearly.
Could have been a bomb.
There's a variety of things in there. Didn't they find a condom in there or something?
Yeah, they did.
Just in case, Mason thinks he's going to
Very
get
good.
lucky out
Well
on the
done,
street.
Mason. Stay safe. Yes. Mason's like, hang on a minute. I'm a young soap character. I'm going to wear a condom. I'm going to wear a condom at all times, just in case. The last thing I want is a Who's the Daddy storyline involving me as one of the suspects.
Yeah,
Thanks
I'm already
very
a
much.
suspect in the Who Killed Joel story. That's plenty of that.
I was the first one out the gate on that one. I'm not having them pin anything else on me.
Speaking of Mason's bits, Sally's worried that he's washing them in the hot tub, so she wants, or whoever it is, because she thinks it could be some odd, just, down
Well, she doesn't
and out,
know.
isn't she? Yeah. And so she says, look, we need to take all this stuff to the police.
And clean hot tub.
Yeah, there was a funny scene, although it did not make sense whatsoever, that Sally's doing her conservatory yoga later on, and Mason comes in through the door with her bum to the garden. It would not make an iota of sense for her to do this.
She already said that she was upset to think she'd been violated, that somebody watched her while she was doing the yoga in the conservatory.
So
and then
she does it anyway.
Facing the opposite direction, so she wouldn't even know if anyone was watching her. I don't think many women would do that. I think it would be a natural thing if you're a woman to face the area that you're vulnerable in.
Yeah, definitely. But it did give Luca Toolan a good opportunity to have a bit of a grimace when he sees her. He goes to the shed.
There's a lot worse looking than that doing yoga.
Oh, I know.
You know.
So Mason watches. Mason kind of crawls out. Goes back to the street where he sees Tim carrying a rucksack down to the street, heading over to the cab office. So he follows him there to streetcars to steal it back. But Tim catches him. He's like, because this is mine.
He literally like sneaks in and gets caught because, of course, why would you not notice somebody leaning through the hatch to take the rucksack, like literally from your peripheral vision?
Tim did have his headphones on, didn't he, for his because he was working the switch in streetcars. But even so, he's been caught, and I really appreciated kind of Tim and everything that he did after that, because he's kind of turned into the new Stu, hasn't he? The new guardian for Mason, and thinking that he's not such a bad sort after all. And this ties into what I was saying last week about this seemingly being Mason's redemption storyline. He's just very cool with him and buys him breakfast, and Mason opens up a bit about his brothers and his dead nan, and he's got nowhere to stay anymore. His parents aren't on the scene anymore, which really does suck for him and his brothers, because how old are they? And they've got no trace of their parents anymore. That's kind of sad, even though they're wrong uns. So anyway, Tim goes and tells Yasmin about this later. After Mason's gone, and she says, oh, I hear something about a homeless teenager was attacked in the precinct the other day. The police are still there. So Tim rushes off to go and find this, and Wednesday's episode ends with Sally not knowing where Tim is. I kind of forgot what happened in the end, because by the time Friday's episode starts, Mason's back in the cab office with Tim, isn't he? And he's looking okay, so I think I maybe missed what happened there. But they're back, and they're friends, and they're looking after each other, or he's looking after Mason.
Tim's getting Mason, he's under his protection, isn't he?
I just don't know what happened about Tim rushing off and Sally not knowing where he is. She says, I'm sitting there, she's pretending that it's perfectly normal to sit and drink alone in the Rovers, and then she mentions to someone on the... I know, but then she talks to Tim on the phone, leaves him a message saying, I'm sitting here drinking alone like a common tart, or something like that. But anyway...
That's a callback to Elsie Tanner.
To cut a long story short...
Who stood in almost exactly the same place for many a year.
Exactly.
By herself.
To cut a long story short, Tim gets back home later, finds Sally doing a bit of a clear out of the place, and she's found her mum's engagement ring that she wants cleaning properly. And then when she heads up to bed, Tim sneaks out and gets Mason to come down and sleep secretly on the sofa, which is a bit of a risky move, but this is Tim we're talking about here. Doesn't necessarily... Not the brains of Britain. Mason says, thanks, I'll be out by the time Sally comes down in the morning. Speaking of the morning, he's strolling along the street, and there we have his two brothers, Logan, who we've met before, and Matty, who I'd forgotten even exists. And they sneak up to him and doing like, all right, bro, what you doing? Where have you been? They don't seem like a very...
Supportive family, no, exactly.
But they are showing some concern, or what? Is it just they're badgering him with questions about where he's been?
They're opportunistic, because they're like, where are you getting scran and sleep? Oh, What's that with, you know?
Well, I think they're being a bit controlling as well, and they like when he stays with them because it gives because they can beat him up.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, we're cruising for a bruise in here.
I'm going to say this is a toxic family.
Yes, it is. The Radcliffes are somewhat toxic. And he says, look, I've just been staying in the shed over at that house. It's nothing big. But then they realise that he's looking fairly clean and he's had a shower, well kempt.
He's not homeless. He's not sleeping rough like he's saying he is.
I don't think
more's going on.
Yeah, nothing else particularly happens with their side of things. Tim's telling Sally later that he thinks that Mason would make a good window cleaner. So maybe at some point we're going to see him up a ladder and his brother's shaking the bottom of it, or I don't know what. But nothing particularly happens there. The big drama at the end of this episode, apart from the fact that Tim is caught bad-mouthing podcasts, which... No,
true to life.
He was already there in your bad books, right at the top of the page. And if he says nothing, I can't remember what he says, but
don't go in for it. But then we met
not a fat panda fuck.
We met Joe Tatine like years and years ago, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't care about it. I'm not interested in podcasts."
Yeah,
that's the only thing he ever said.
He says, "Is that someone on Tinternet?"
He wasn't interested
but
at all.
Sally, lovely Sally, thinks that podcasts are food for the soul. So yeah. Well done, Sally. You're right. Dump his ass.
But at least him and Joe are consistent with one another.
Yes. Yeah. He's it's method, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
Anyway, the drama apart from that is that the car's been nicked, and that's what happens when you park your car out on the street and not in the secret underground lair that the cars are parked in Coronation Street for 90% of the time. It's been pinched, and not only is that a problem, but the ring is inside too.
Oh God!
Mrs. Seddon's ring has been pinched as well
because Tim was going to secretly take it to get cleaned and as a surprise gift for his wife, but it's all backfired.
Yes.
Oops.
He shouldn't have left it in the car. Really. Who was it? Joel had a bit of a thing with leaving a ring in a car earlier this year, didn't he? And
men and jewellery in cars, can't trust them.
Tim's just fallen for the same mistake as well.
Well, just as Sally is about to phone the police to tell them...
What?
About this missing car...
Yes, he says, there's something that you should know.
That perhaps, we don't get to see this confession, but clearly Tim's coming clean about the fact that perhaps a ne'er-do-well had access to...
Yeah, so he thinks that it's Mason, doesn't he? Mm-hmm. Because who else would it be? But it seems like it's probably Matty and Logan that have gone on a bit of a joyride.
Which, incidentally, was my favourite boy band in the 90s.
Naughty Bros. So, did you like this story?
Do you know what? There's only so many like strays and waifs and delinquents that turn good eventually. I can deal with it once. I feel like we've had a deluge of them on Coronation Street, and did it all start with Kelly Nealon? I'm not sure, but it just feels like there's just a constant. No, I know, but the recent influx.
Oh, yeah.
You can't move for like ne'er-do-well young people down on their luck.
They just need a little bit of mentoring from one of the good-hearted residents of the street.
There's just so many going on simultaneously now. You got Mason, you got Betsy, and I know she's not really a ne'er-do-well, but she was introduced like she was one, wasn't she?
Yeah.
You got the brothers now. You had who else have we got? Lauren.
Yeah, I can't remember. It feels like you're right. There's quite a lot.
There's loads. we're always talking about the.
Usually they're blonde girls, though, aren't they? They're not often male members of the cast like Logan. Not Logan, sorry, Mason.
There's the whole group of like teens that have grown up on the street, or they're growing into young adults now. So you got Ardy and Asher, you got Amy, all that group together. They're all really. I like watching them. I find them interesting. But then you've got this lot are all very slightly younger, and they're all off the street, and they're all wrong-uns.
Yeah, I think I like Mason a bit more than Betsy at the moment. But I'm willing to change my mind on Betsy. Maybe she just needs to be in it for a little bit longer. And
I find them all interesting, but I just think it's the same character origin.
Yeah.
And of course they're all very different. And
with Betsy, you've got the fact that she's the daughter of a police officer that's had a bit of an extra wrinkle to the usual. Mm-hmm. But they are partly going down that story. They're just focusing more on the Mason at the moment. And I think I'd be willing to forgive him, even if it doesn't particularly make sense with how vile he was shown to be last year with the bullying. And I liked the fact that this story was very Metcalfe heavy, and there's been a drought of Metcalves this year. So yeah, this is good. And it filled in a few gaps about what happened on the night of Joel's murder, potentially.
The thing about rehabilitating Mason is that they did the same thing with Max and Lauren about their white supremacy stuff.
Yeah.
And that was arguably worse because that involved a bomb and a stabbing. I'm not gonna.
There was a zombie knife in this story, Gemma. Don't forget.
I'm not really. I'd rather live in a world where it's possible for people to be redeemed and to go on and live a good and productive and wholesome life after being an evil person. I'd rather live in that world, but I don't know if that's the world I live in, really.
Well, you don't live in Weatherfield, do you?
No.
They're very magnanimous there. So what's Bethany been up to this week? I semi-enjoyed this story. It definitely felt like it was a B to C story compared to with everything else this week. But do you want to take the lead on this one and run down the...
Still quite reluctant to go anywhere or do anything because she is feeling self-conscious and she's still trying to work out how to live with her stoma. And when they have an appointment at the hospital... Bethany is trying to downplay how she's struggling, but Daniel kind of rats her out to the nurse.
You don't even want to go outside.
And so when they go back to the flat, Bethany's really mad and like calls him out for trying to talk over her and jumping in and trying to take control of her life and saying what she's allowed to. Telling secrets.
Very much in character of Daniel. And I think, people... Although, you look at it and say we probably shouldn't have done and let her say what she wants to say. I think some family members would do that. I think it's fairly true to life that if you're concerned about your other half and they're not being completely honest and you think it's probably for the best, I think that a lot of people probably would have done the same as Daniel, but I know not everybody.
No, I mean I've been in situations both way rounds where, like, when I was little, I remember there was a bit where I went to go see the doctor and I thought I was going for something and it turned out my mum was there to tell the doctor something else that she was concerned about, and I felt very betrayed and upset. And then when I'm but she was right to do that. And then when I was older, I've definitely been to the hospital or had appointments where I'm with somebody and I'm like, are you not going to mention the fact that this and this has happened? And then but as usual, I think Daniel's one of these people who is often right, but so sanctimonious that you hate him for it anyway.
Yeah.
And he's
just
really
got this air about him, hasn't he?
He definitely is superior to. He thinks he's superior to everybody else. He's
His
very
way
irritating.
is the right way.
And when it turns out he is right, it's even more frustrating. But she's not going to forgive him really, and Sarah, she storms off and Sarah comes and says that you've got to let her do her own thing. She's a grown-up, right? She can decide for herself what her limits are. And so Daniel just back down and says, look, can you please apologise to Bethany for me?
It's funny thinking of it, Bethany is a grown-up, but in my head she's still
she
that
feels
same,
like a
15, 16-year-old that she was. She's inherited her mum's never-aging gene, hasn't she? Yeah, she gives the aura of somebody that needs looking after a little bit, and maybe that's very misogynistic of me to say, patronising for me to say that. But yeah, although she says that I can do this, I'm a top journalist, don't you know? But yeah, I get that Daniel wants to. It feels like he needs to wade in and say, hang on a minute here.
Sarah sits Bethany down later and says, look, Daniel's heart is in the right place, that just remember that this isn't the end of your life. You can still live your life to the fullest. And she gets some inspirational stoma wearers leaflets and sort of shows it to Bethany and go, look, they're not letting it get in their way. You don't have to either. And so she kind of says, I get what you're both saying. And she agrees to call Daniel and kind of make up with him.
Yeah.
So on Wednesday, they get invited to the space funeral, but they're not really sure whether they want to go. And Daniel's like, it'd be really good to get out and, make your debut. You're not going to be the star of the show, are you? Because that's Paul. So why don't we go? And she eventually relents, and she's very nervous about it. But she gets in the swing of things a bit. But then Daisy notices, like, it looks like he spilt something on her shirt, but it wasn't that at all. It's her stoma is leaking, and she's mortified. She runs off. She locks herself in the bathroom. She's trying to clean herself up. This couldn't have gone any worse, really.
This is a classic Corrie thing, isn't it? It's very much like earlier this year when Roy was holding himself up in his flat and everyone was saying, no, Roy, you should go out. The minute he steps out of the cafe, these teens accost him,
So she's her worst nightmares come true, and she's devastated.
We'd been saying before that this storyline hadn't really shown us a whole lot of what living with a stoma is like, and I think this week went some way to repairing that, don't you think?
Well, I think I'd said that I don't think they really have said what it is. I wasn't really concerned about whether they would show her living with it. It was more a case of like, if you don't know what it is this going to tell you what it is?
We saw the bag last week, didn't we?
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't mean anything. But when I did that poll on Twitter, and about 80% of people said I already know what one is. So perhaps it's I don't think it's necessarily important that Coronation Street tells you what a stoma is. I'm just quite surprised that so many people I think it's one of these things because there's a lot of stigma around it. I think that it's one of these. It's like a secret that everyone knows about, but nobody really talks about.
We're so used to Coronation Street telling us every single thing about every ailment and affliction that its characters have that it comes across as being a little bit unusual when they don't in this case. But yeah, now this seems like they are, and Bethany's had her accident. I mean, hopefully, if anyone is in a similar situation to Bethany, they're not going to see this and think, oh my gosh, what if this happens to me, and it makes them feel worse. But I guess the storyline then progresses to her realising, oh, it's okay, I can live with this.
I think it's more a case of like, if this happens to you, it's fine.
Not fine, but
you'll be fine.
Yeah, you will be fine.
You'll be
it's
fine.
Not the end of the world.
It's okay. It's fine. It's that. I'm not going to take it back. It's fine. You shouldn't be embarrassed. It's just something that happened. It's not your fault. Don't worry about it. I see how you're sad and it's upset you, but everybody understands. Really, everyone does. So Daniel says, look, don't worry about it. And Sarah's like, you shouldn't have let her go in the first place. But Bethany does have a pretty bad reaction to this because she basically blames her wardrobe and says, I can't wear any of these clothes. All of this is too tight. I'm not going to be able to... I've got to throw these clothes away that I was wearing. I'm never going in the Rovers again. It's so embarrassing. I can't believe Daisy saw that happen. And
well, yeah, having Daisy be the one that sees
that
it
points
definitely
it out.
was, yeah.
And Daniel also, tells him to get out too because she's mortified. And Daisy's her love rival, and this happened in front of Daniel, her boyfriend. So she gets really mad, and so Daniel has to leave, goes back to the pub, tells Daisy about how Bethany is blaming him, and he's wondering whether he should just leave her alone altogether. What a bad person to choose to confide in about this.
Yeah, he hasn't learned, has he, from, a few weeks ago when he was going off chatting to Daisy, and meanwhile Bethany was getting her insides removed in Turkey, and he was never the idea. He always goes to Daisy, and that he can't just say we're just friends. He clearly does have some feelings for her still. He just can't help himself. He thinks, again, because he's so superior, he's like, I can control myself.
I'm above my feelings.
I don't have human urges.
Right, so on Friday, Bethany apologises to Daniel, and he says, look, it's my fault. I shouldn't have made you go to the pub. And they basically just forgive each other. And then later on, they're getting a bit frisky on the sofa, having a bit of a kiss. And he's like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to? And she's like, yeah, I do. And he puts his hand where her stoma is, and she just flinches and says, I just can't do this. And he says, look, I don't care about this stoma.
Yeah,
this is keeping you alive. I love it. I love you. Nothing's going to change.
I thought that was a really nice line where he says, if this thing is keeping you alive, then I love it. I think that was a really nice line from Daniel that proves that he still does have feelings for her, and the stoma doesn't make any difference to him.
But I totally get where she's coming from, because being attractive as a young woman is incredibly important. It's like culture tells you the most important thing is to be attractive. Yeah. And this is making her feel that she isn't, and she feels betrayed and upset and confused and yeah.
And I know that Bethany is the victim here, but I think that we should be cutting Daniel a little bit of slack as well, because obviously you want somebody to say it's fine, it doesn't make any difference. But I think if you're in Daniel's position, you are going to find it a little bit odd and a bit different, and something to get used to.
They've both got to work out how to live with this, and I think Daniel is kind of trying to brush it under the carpet, and maybe Coronation Street is doing this on his behalf, because I think Coronation Street sometimes is choosing the characters to model ideal behaviour to try to promote certain attitudes. I personally don't think that's a good idea. I think we should be real and show the ugly parts and the good parts of people, because genuinely, I'd be freaked out if you suddenly had a stoma. I'd take a time to get used to it.
Exactly.
I'd be a bit scared. I'd be like, what if it gets knocked off? Are you going to cover me with poo? I don't know anything about this. I'm scared. Will it hurt you if it gets pulled? Is it going to come out? How stuck in is it? What is it? I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, and I think that is a natural reaction from a partner, and it's not necessarily
It's not
something
you.
that you should, vocalise and say, I'm really worried about this, but it's
There
normal.
must be a support group for partners.
Yeah. For somebody to have this happen, it's going to have an effect on the partner.
It's going to freak you out a bit because
Yeah.
it's unusual and it's a taboo thing and it's something that people don't want to talk about because it's unpleasant.
Yeah.
And I'm really sad that that is the truth. But if we pretend it's not real, we're not going to be able to talk frankly about what it is that is so scary about it.
Yeah, and I think the fact that Daniel is by no means a perfect human being, I think it would be nice if we did see him having a conversation with somebody saying, well, yeah, it is a little bit odd.
But also, I don't
to
want
be
people...
honest, but I'm doing the best I can. I don't want to upset her.
I don't want people with stomas to sit and watch this and go, oh, great, everyone thinks I'm a freak. That's exactly what I want to hear.
No.
But it is something that everyone has got to get used to, and it's not
just
it's not
the
a
person who has
reflection.
it.
It's not a reflection on you. It doesn't make you a bad person.
Yeah.
But if we don't tackle unpleasant things and talk about them properly and really discuss our real feelings and just brush it under the carpet, we're never gonna learn anything about it.
Yeah. Now, I am often a bit of a Daniel defender, but I think what he did at the end of Friday's episode, although it was well intentioned, it's clearly going to bite him on the bum, and Bethany is not going to be pleased that he's done it, which is when he he gets all the clothes that she's bagged up to get rid of, and he takes them to Daisy to look after.
Oh, great, yeah.
And say, would you mind just keeping hold of these? Because obviously I know I'm right, and she will want to wear these clothes again, so until she has that inevitable realisation, can you just keep these safe for me? And Daisy's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Seriously, Daniel, you could have taken these clothes anywhere. Take them to your dad's. Why take your current girlfriends who's feeling very insecure about herself and the state of your relationship because of this woman Daisy? Why would you take her clothes to her to look after just because you're saying, I can control my urges, I don't fancy you, Daisy? He must know he does a little bit. What a silly move to do, and he deserves the ear bashing that he's going to get from Daisy when she inevitably finds out. I mean, I saw somebody online, and maybe it was Rebecca actually, listener Rebecca, who said, well, maybe Daisy's going to try on one of Bethany's clothes, and Bethany's going to walk in the pub just at the moment that Daisy's coming into the bar wearing it, saying, hey, what do you think of this? It kind of writes itself a little bit, doesn't it? But I hadn't thought about it. But sorry, Daniel, that was a really dumb move. Put him in the attic, give him to your dad, take him anywhere but to Daisy.
Storage locker.
Well, yeah, I hear that the rates are quite reasonable at the
David
Weatherfield
knows
story.
where one is.
Yeah, exactly. It's just out by Weatherfield General Car Park. You can't miss it. So he was I think he was out. Do you think so? He was out of order at the end there.
Yes, it seems like setting up a problem.
Yeah, a very foreseeable problem, and not just because we're used to watching soaps.
It's funny that he's saying all the right things about the stoma, but doing all the wrong things about the relationship thing. And what I'm saying about him reacting and having a negative reaction to the stoma and worrying about it, it's not like I want people to suffer who have this happen to them, but also equally I just imagine somebody watching this thinking, God, Daniel's a bit of a crap person, but he's been reacted so well. I feel bad now because when you had your stoma, I had all these questions and concerns, and he's not acting like that. Am I a bad person because of how I reacted? No, you shouldn't. I think this is I feel like it's kind of missing a trick to have some really painful conversations that might mirror real life the conversations that people have really had. And make them feel not so isolated, because sometimes when these things happen, you do react badly and have a bad attitude towards it, and kind of that's what's happened to Bethany. She's got a bit of a bad attitude towards it, but that's completely normal.
Yeah.
She should be supported and go, yes, it does suck, it is horrible, I feel bad for you, this is the worst thing, I can't imagine how you feel, you're totally right to be upset. I think a lot of times people just want to hear that, yes, this sucks, sucks, I can't help you, I just want to validate you and let you know that you're not wrong. You don't need to have this isn't a Disney movie. It's okay to be upset. But what we have to do is find a way to get over it.
Exactly. So with all, I think that could still happen. I'm still feeling generally pretty positive about this story. I remember when we heard about in the rumours of the press that Bethany was going to get this botched plastic surgery and end up with a stoma. I was like, oh, for heaven's sake, really? Another lifelong medical drama that someone's going to have and then forget about? But so far, I'm pretty much enjoying the scenes. I find Daniel a very interesting and complex character. Bethany, I had been a bit more down on, but I think now this is maybe taking her off her perch a little bit. She's much more interesting and tolerable. Sarah, I've got all the time in the world for. Daisy, I sometimes she winds me up, but on the whole I think she's a pretty strong character. And having something like this, it feels kind of new in amongst the other stories which feel like they've been going on for a long time. Not that that's always a bad thing, but it still feels fairly fresh and interesting for me to watch. So yeah, I
do feel really bad for her. I feel I just want to make everything okay for her, but that's just not.
Sometimes you just can't.
Yeah.
So finally, we have got a bit of a Platt story brewing here.
Only thing I was going to say was it is interesting to me how women's wardrobes are so indicative of their mood and like a communication to the viewer, much more it seems than men, because we also saw
on whatever.
Nina, when she went through her crisis of confidence and upsetting herself after Seb died, she went through that phase where she was just wearing hoodies and she wasn't wearing black anymore because she didn't feel like herself. And now you've got Bethany and she's just wearing she's basically wearing what I wear. Bunch of baggy old t-shirts and she looks like a slob because she is, I don't know, she feels, she wants to protect her silhouette. She doesn't want anyone to see the bag or have it brush against anything or leak anywhere. And so I just find that really interesting. I can't really think of a time when we've seen this with a male character, but I also am totally willing to accept that just men don't really communicate as much as women.
It makes you wonder, whether if somebody like Gemma had a stoma, like what difference would that have made? Would she be like, I wear it proud, don't care what anyone thinks, I'm going to have it on the outside of my trousers kind of thing.
Oh my goodness.
It
is interesting to think about how different characters react, but yeah, Gemma certainly couldn't fit it under her clothes the way she wears them at the moment.
The tightness of them. Right, so as I was saying, we've got another Platt story brewing away, which is great. David and Shona have been far too sidelined in recent years, and it seems like, although it's going to end up in some kind of fallout between this couple that I really, really love, they have got some drama on the horizon, because on Wednesday, David's getting the post and he sees that there's letters that have come from the prison. So, Clayton, Shona's son, the murderer of David's late wife Kylie, is currently serving time at Highfield Prison in Weatherfield for murdering... Have I already said this is a very long sentence? Basically, Clayton murdered Kylie. That long story short. Oops. So, and Shona, and
then he escaped and held Shona prisoner.
He did that
in
a little bit.
House.
Yeah, and then Shona's like, right. She had a few stories where she was like, can I trust you? Didn't he try to get her to smuggle drugs for him at one point? I think. Yeah. But so I can't remember exactly what the last thing was that Clayton had done that made Shona say, you know what, I am having nothing to do with you. I think it might have even been after she was shot in a box. I don't remember. Can you have a look at, just while I'm talking, Clayton's Corriepedia page and see what the last thing that he did was? But basically, David sees that Clayton has sent Shona a visiting order from the prison, and he didn't want her to have anything to do with this boy, who, well, not a boy anymore, because this was almost 10 years ago that this happened, I guess. This man who killed his wife, so he hides the letter. What are you doing? What are you
singing a song about not being a boy anymore.
So he then has a bit of a conversation with Jesse. Oh yeah, it's Jesse that comes in, isn't it? And they're talking about this money laundering thing that they need to do because of all the cash that he's pinched from the lockup. Also, we learn on Wednesday's episode that Carla has made an offer on the house that's been accepted. Carla, in her story, doesn't seem to be giving living at number 8 a second thought, does she? It's like you got the Carla who's involved with the Swain and Joel murder storyline, and then you got the Carla that's planning on buying David's or Gail's house. They seem like completely different people. Anyway, Gail's taken David's laptop for something, so he's there later on in the episode with Shona's laptop, I think, sees a prison email coming in, which he then deletes as well, just in time for Shona. Right, have you found anything else about Clayton?
What do you want to know?
I just want to know what the last thing is that Clayton did.
It's really difficult to read this as you're talking about something else.
What's the last thing it says on his biography?
He held a hostage with a knife.
Yeah.
She stabs him. He goes to hospital, goes to prison, and she's like, I'm never going to talk to you again, because she is aware of the true nature of his character after he's shown no remorse over killing Kylie or causing Dane's death.
Fine. Maybe that was the last thing then. Right. Friday then, we got David finding this email in the junk folder, which he deletes permanently. Nice shout, David, because so often on Coronation Street, people just delete things once and then assume it's gone, and most of the time it is gone, but this proved to us that junk folders do exist in the world of Weatherfield. That communication from the prison is out of here.
Shona's like, oh, I've suddenly got a notification here about a load of deleted messages I don't remember seeing, because I back it up to the cloud, so you can't delete anything.
Shona knows what's what. So anyway, she's none the wiser about this. Next morning, we have a rare appearance of Gail telling David that she wants to sell some of her stuff as well. Maybe she'll see if Carla wants to buy the curtains or something. Shona comes in, sits down, she's scrolling through her phone, and we get a bit of a fake out where she's like, oh my gosh, what's this email? And David's like, and she says, oh no, it's just head lice at the school. So she's worried that Lily's going to be crawling with them. And later on, that we get this scene between David and Shona, who are having a little pepper party or something, weren't they? A little pepper tasting party.
No, they were having snacks.
Pepper snacks. And there's a phone call. David picks it up, hears what it is, puts it down, unplugs the phone for whatever reason.
So they don't ring back?
Yeah, but they will eventually, won't they? And even Shona sees that he's unplugged the phone.
Who uses a landline?
Yeah, I did wonder that. Like, at what point are they going to phone Shona's mobile, which would surely be the primary contact number?
Our generation of people, once we got told... We do
include Shona in this.
Once we got told you don't need a landline for your broadband, which was always the reason, we all went, well, get rid of it then.
Yeah. But this is Coronation Street, where Eileen still got her red plug into the wall phone, so why not everybody else?
We had a phone number for a long time when we were at the old house, and I just unplugged the phone because all you ever get is spam.
Yeah. And then this is what David says that it is as well.
Yeah.
But it sounds a little odd, but maybe it's because Gail still lives there, maybe.
Gail
maybe Audrey doesn't understand phoning people's mobiles, I don't know.
I reckon Gail probably signs up for every loyalty card there is going and gets her details sold.
So are you expecting that we're going to see Clayton again? I honestly, I've not seen any spoilers to confirm one way or the other.
No, but when you said that to me, I was like, oh yeah, I guess I was expecting him to come back, but really...
It feels like this is a news Clayton storyline, but yeah, it doesn't have to be.
Doesn't mean that he will come back.
Right at the beginning, of Clayton's journey on Coronation Street, I was always very wary of when he would come into the show because I didn't like him. I wanted David and Shona to stay together. I thought that if anyone's going to split them up, it's going to be Clayton. I was not interested in him being a character in this whatsoever, but time has passed, a lot of water's gone under the bridge, and maybe it is time for us to say a little hello to him again. I quite like to see what the actor looks like now, but it certainly is going to spell trouble, unfortunately, for Shona, because as much as David's heart is maybe in the right place for this, I don't think Shona's going to see it in the same way. Do you think David's at all justified in hiding these emails and letters and phone calls from her?
Well, no, I don't know.
It feels
this
like
is his wife's murderer.
Yeah. He doesn't... I get why he does not want Clayton to have anything to do with their life. Especially, you got Max and Lily now, who are old enough to kind of understand. I mean, Max was, I guess, already, but... He doesn't want them to be rocking their world anytime soon by inviting their mother's killer into his life.
It was... Shona who decided to have nothing to do with Clayton.
Yeah.
So it could be that he's just thinks genuinely that he's protecting her and that there's no reason for her to know this and she needs to be protected from the stress.
Yeah. It could be, but much like when Daniel thinks I'm doing the right thing by telling the nurse that actually Bethany is struggling with this stoma.
She is a grown woman. She got brain damage.
She is a strong, feisty, weather-filled woman who I think is grown up enough herself to say, no, I don't want anything to do with him. But I think that she is going to have something to do with him. Surely it's not going to be a case of
how is he not going to be in it then? If you're so sure...
No, I don't know whether he's going to be in it or not. I've got no idea. And she could very well be going off to the prison and seeing... I know they've got a prison set that they can easily use, but we don't necessarily need to see it. Whether or not he appears or not, I don't know. But I think that Shona will be saying, you're right. Shona is in the mindset of, I don't want anything to do with my son. But again, the same way that water has passed under the bridge with me, maybe it has with Shona, especially if she's in the middle of a fallout with David who's been hiding things for her. Maybe she'll say, well, screw that. I am going to go and see him, actually. Maybe just to stick it to David.
Yeah, stick it to the man.
Yeah. I really can't remember the Clayton storyline timeline. I'm sure there's been a post shot in the box scene, but maybe I should have looked it up before I recorded.
I can't read it as you're talking.
That's fine. That is okay. So that brings us to the end almost of Street Talk, but we have got to make our Character of the Week and Score of the Week selections. I think it was I'm going to say it was a pretty good week.
I enjoyed it. Look, I know people still going on about how much they hated some of the things that happened this week. I was entertained. I don't know whether it makes any sense. I'm not going to stand behind bringing everyone back as a ghost. I think the more you do it, the less impactful it becomes.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's not worth doing at all.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to see someone come back.
But, it just didn't quite work for me, Paul's Back from the Dead.
Yeah.
And the space launch was still a bit odd to me. And again, I'm very sorry for everybody who thinks this is beautiful and wonderful and have shot their own relatives up into space. I didn't know that's what it would be like. I'm glad we got to see it. I'm glad as well.
I was completely wrong about what it was.
Yeah, I was as well. I still watching it thinking this is weird, but equally it was also, this is weird, but I kind of like it.
I can see why you'd want this. If you know... I think it's the more you know about it, the less weird it is.
Yeah, and I totally get, and it made sense that there were characters on the street like Billy, like even Dev, I think initially, who heard the idea and were like, "Huh?
How's that?"
Because that is a natural thing to do for some people to say that sounds odd.
Here's the question: is it carbon neutral?
Oh yeah, that is a good question. That is a question. I mean, Coronation Street's got to keep its little green duck at the end of its credits.
What will happen?
So I don't know. Maybe this is encouraging space junk, and it's going to lose its
space rubbish.
Yeah.
I don't want to be space rubbish. I've been Earth rubbish my whole life. Why would I turn into space rubbish when I die?
Right. So with that in mind, I am going to give this week's Coronation Street. I'm going to give it 4 little morning wheeze out of 5.
Are you?
I think.
4? That's really high.
Yeah, no, I thought it was an entertaining week. You know, that there was more developments in the Joel story. I appreciated there being more Sally and Tim. I quite like the Bethany story. There weren't any dud stories for me at all this week. There was a good selection of characters that I liked.
Well, I support Paul's ambition to be the first gay man on Mars. So I'm going to give this week 3.5 of them.
3.5 gay men on Mars.
Yeah, because I think you've all got to do it simultaneously, like jump with both your feet so that nobody can say they were the first. So you get 3, but one wasn't listening and he just put 1 foot.
He hopped down.
Yeah, so he's like the half man.
Oh my gosh.
Meanwhile... Lesbians been there for years. Where have you been, men? We've been up here the whole time, trying to get away from you lot.
Actually, I believe men came from Mars, so we've been there already.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no gay men on Venus. Thank you very much.
I don't know who I'm going to do for Character of the Week. It's really difficult. I really enjoyed the stuff with Carla and Lisa. I really enjoyed... Dan and Jane's portrayal of Billy and Bernie's grief, even though some of the way that it was expressed on screen didn't quite work for me.
It was a bit overblown.
I've enjoyed Bethany. I think Sarah's been doing her best to be a good mum in a really difficult situation. Tim's been lovely, supporting Mason.
I liked my favourite story is still the Joel story this week. Mm-hmm. Who am I going to give it to in there though?
Is it Dee Dee? Ed was really supportive and kind of said and made Dee Dee hopefully realise that she's not a murderess.
I really am. confused.
Yeah, David Shona was great.
I think maybe I'm going to give it to Bernie because I really did like how she kind of gathered Billy under her wing. Isn't it ironic too that Billy
under a
was
bingo wing
trying to Billy was trying to turn his grief into a positive and help people, but really he was the one that needed help, and it was Bernie that was the only person who could give it to him. Yeah, so ironic and deep. Thanks, Gemma.
Oh, no, I'm just sorry. I'm just trying to think. This is a real struggle in a good way because there were lots of...
You better hurry up because we've got to get on with this.
We have got stuff to do, haven't we? I'm going to give it to... I'm going to give it to David.
David? David the dog?
No.
Because I was entranced by him.
David the dog was great on Wednesday's episode.
I absolutely adore that.
Yeah.
He's another one of these people where I think you better make the most of him while he's on the castle. Just like we saw with Kelly, Kelly Nealon.
Yeah.
We knew that she wouldn't be around for very long.
She was destined
she's
for
a bright
greater
star.
things. Yeah.
Disney Channel's calling.
David doesn't feel right to give it to.
Get on with it.
Oh gosh, I can't. I really don't know
Listen,
who to
all
go
you people
for
listening,
this week.
right? This is harder than it seems.
It really is. I should have thought about it before because honestly, I don't know.
I know it seems like we're surprised every week.
I'm going to give it to... Yeah, I'll stick with David because I've got nobody better. But honestly, it was a really cracking week with lots of great performances. So there we go.